And, we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. What's going on, everybody? It's another episode of the Cover2Cover Podcast. I am your host, Jaron Bingham. This is the season finale, the 14th episode. Been working extremely hard. This is the last day of the year, 2024 as well. So it's been a good year.
It has.
Oh, young Quay on the mic. I see. We got the mic set up.
Yeah, this is the last one. I had to just say a little bit before we close it out.
We just been very good book recommendations throughout the entirety of the season. I'm very excited about this upcoming book. Those closest to me know how much I am infatuated with Black history, and I appreciate it so much. Just because it's what gave me my confidence. Ultimately. And in today's episode, we jump into the wonderful world of Dan Freeman by way of The Spook Who Sat by the Door, Sam Greenlee's, what would you classify this book as? Is it a fiction or is it a blueprint?
It's like blueprint fiction.
To the audience out there who's listening, this is the prolific Mikal Driver. Guy runs an entire program manager at the Literacy Lab, which assists pre-K through third graders in reading?
In hindsight, but for like my program specifically, our fellows work with pre-K. So they're early literacy tutors in pre-K classrooms. But expansion plans are to go like pre-K to 5 eventually.
And you have a leading man fellowship as well, right?
That's the fellowship.
That's the fellowship.
That's the fellowship with the Literacy Lab.
Cool. Like brothers out here doing like real work, really getting these kids in the books, man. What got you inspired into reading in general? Like just this kind of appetite for knowledge and information.
Man, so I had to acknowledge like how I learned first. Like, I'm a visual learner. So like at first I wasn't really reading books like that. But to compete like in school, like I was socially aware a little bit. I don't know how, like being from the west side of Atlanta, people talk about it a lot, but there is a certain aptitude because you're aware of like there are two worlds. Like you formally see it, and then you look at the systems of like being in Atlanta public schools. You always knew Grady was just a little bit different. you always knew North Atlanta was just a little bit different, and you always heard the story of like they get to be amongst a different type of world, right? Yeah. So when I think about the value of like how reading was pushed on me, reading was like I won't say it was a punishment, but it was just the task of schooling, not the foundation of what I know literacy to be right now, which is like from a civil rights perspective, like literacy is a civil right now. Yeah. In the lane of like people have civil cases about this. Like school districts are depriving children of the ability to get access to the basics of like how reading can be structurally used from a pre-K standpoint, from the science of reading all the way up to.
And you do so much work with it from the grassroots standpoint of it that it's such a, and we'll dive into it once we really jump into the book. Guys, forgive me, I'm probably not going to really jump into this book until probably another 5-10 minutes. First off, Quay would kill me if I didn't tell you guys to like, share, and subscribe. And also to let any of the viewers and or listeners know, Cover2Cover is chock full with spoilers. So if you haven't read The Spook Who Sat by the Door and you're interested in reading The Spook Who Sat by the Door, hit this pause button, like, share, subscribe, read the book, come back, and you're gonna dive into everything that we're gonna have going on.
Watch the film too. It's on YouTube. Full.
I didn't get a chance to watch the film before we recorded this. I wanted to though.
Before I read the book, I saw the film like 5 times. And
okay.
And then when you read the book, then it's like kind of like Harry Potter. How they always say like the movies gave us a glimpse of certain things. When you read the book, there's a different like aspect of it. Like Prisoner of Azkaban, right? Hermione Granger was really going crazy with that time machine in the book. We just saw a visual of it. So like with the movie, you see a visual of like what's being said here. And it gives you a good notion of like how to strategically apply this idea of guerrilla warfare. You're watching somebody have duality when you think about the opening of like the brothers all connecting when it was the black family reunion type, you know, and everybody getting to know each other. Who's the black bourgeoisie of what? But Dan Freeman sitting in the back of the corner, and he chilling. Like that's where I see it. Like I see how Dan Freeman moves instead of reading about it. So for me, like I said, I'm a visual learner, so I leaned in with that first. But I also value still the words.
When you read it 5 times, you saw the movie 5 times. When did you first read it?
First read the book, I received this like 2-3 years ago.
Okay.
Then I read it.
Okay.
But the first time I like engaged with the whole film, I was teaching my 6th graders.
Okay.
And we watched it together. And it was funny. And funny story about it, it was like the group of students who couldn't go on the field trip.
Yeah.
So it's always so it's the ones you would say that need the extra discipline or support. So like for me, it was like I really wanted to like get their minds focus on the idea of discipline.
It's funny, if somebody could stop this podcast, or if you could watch pause this podcast right here at this whatever mark we're at, go to the very, listen through and then come back to what he just said. I'm telling you, Dan Freeman, in terms of his appetite to want to give back to that younger generation. As you speak, you'll remind me a lot of his character.
So that's the crazy part. Like when we get to the question about like what I align with about Dan is, for me, I'm a big movie buff, right?
Yeah.
But I love the espionage type.
Yeah.
Like I love the 00. Like I've always felt the way that we never could just. It was always we had to have somebody play 007 instead of just giving us an agent.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that's why I fell in love with Cross that just came out.
Yeah.
Because Tyler Perry cool, but from an actioneer standpoint, he wasn't gonna give off the ideal that like what was really being depicted in James Patterson's work about who Alex Cross was.
Mm-hmm.
Like Elder Taj did pretty well with like showing that, but it was that he had that agent-esque like style. Like we never really had that.
Jason Bourne and the Bourne Identity, that entire trilogy, I love that.
We never had nobody who looked like us.
Yeah.
We always had a supporting character.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if you look at 007, Jeffrey Wright's character, worked for the CIA, and he was the man that he helped James Bond a lot in what was it, Casino Royale.
Yeah.
So you think about that, but I think for me, I finally saw it was like that visual of seeing somebody cool, calm, collected, but be disciplined. But at the end of the day, he did do what I like. He made what I do look cool.
Yeah.
Which is at the end of the day, teaching, anybody's a teacher. And I try to get people to think about that. Like anybody's a teacher. You can teach somebody how to hold a pen, sit up straight, open a door. But an educator, I saw this quotation from a Morehouse man. It was on LinkedIn, but I forgot. I never saw his name, but I did not forget the quote. And it said, an educator is a mentor with theoretical and practical solutions. So in hindsight, everybody not an educator.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a lot of teachers out here.
You have to talk that shit, bro.
So when you think about Dan Freeman was an educator.
Yeah.
Like, because you can't just teach guerrilla warfare to somebody whose mindset is not locked into a concept of what freedom is when you outside of survival mode.
Yeah.
Because survival mode freedom and then the freedom of what, most people who don't look like us, that freedom that they have, that's not survival mode freedom.
Yeah.
That is the freedom of mobility. That is the freedom of your morality. That is the freedom of having your allowing if your soul was a light and you could keep that light on, that means the solar power. Like that kind of living, that kind of lifestyle, we don't really get to see that without such a discipline. And that's why I appreciate Dan Freeman, because he helps perpetuate teachers versus educators.
Let's go ahead and
because I'm sorry, before we jump in, because I wanted to touch on something really, really quickly that you had spoke on. That I think that everybody can kind of everybody, us as black men. I'm trying to say out a word. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm holding up the podcast, but basically, I'm just gonna say it. How it came to me. So you was talking about how being introduced into reading was kind of like a punishment, prior. And one thing that I noticed as well too, until which I think introducing the youth and what y'all doing, I would just want to ask the question, one, how important is it to introduce a medium like reading into a way that people can be interested in it? How important is that? Which ways do you guys do it? Because I know I say for myself, like writing. I used to hate writing when I was a kid, because as a kid in grade school, it was used as a punishment. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was like, oh, you messed up in class or whatever, scoop, all right, you finna have to sit there. You can't go to recess and you got to sit in here. You got to write these hundreds of thousands of lines over and over again. And that's how you have to spend it, right? And so one of my high school teachers, Miss Hardison, love her to death. We had a exercise. She was like, please, we're doing this, introduce yourself. Tell me why you like writing or why you dislike writing or whatnot like that. And then we had to get up and share it. And then, that's why I wrote down. I was like, I'm really not a fan of writing because, it was used as a punishment. So if anything I could do, I would I prefer not to write. I hate writing woo woo scoop scoop. And she was like, wow, I never really looked at it like that. And she opened my eyes that a lot of people don't. And the way that you introduce a core value in people's lives can like possibly deter them away from it, i.e. reading. Like if you just, you finna sit in this book and read this as a punishment, you know, say taking away. So I just wanted to ask the question, put it on the floor for you fellas. How important is it, and how are ways that you guys introduce reading to the youth?
I mean, I could jump in. I think it's important because, well, one, I just didn't like the process of like how school made reading feel. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we had this thing called Scholastics for All, SFA. And in SFA, I was at like in 7th grade, I was in like a 11th, 12th grade reading level. And then by 8th grade, I'm in like the Z group, like college reading level, per like probably framing. It probably like comprehension and processing. It probably wasn't all the way like as thorough as that level, but I'm able to read. So I think I also think that I was just like, well, I know I could read.
Right.
I don't like this book. You ain't let me pick my book. You didn't tell me you didn't give me a chance to say what kind of essays I would like to write about, which schools are traditionally not going to do. So it was always this deterrent by way of I'm just not interested. Right. And like if you just know me enough as a student and say like, I know you like superheroes, so I want you to write me a 5-paragraph essay on the psychology of Batman. Boom. I probably would have went on Google or Ask Jeeves, and I'd have been like, going psychology of Batman. I'd have been breaking down, all right, what's classical conditioning? What is like these, okay, cool. Okay, why is the mask is a portrayal of, is he hiding behind this mask? Like, I'd have went stupid. Yeah. Crazy, right? And then you would tell me to come and present this in front of class? Yeah. What? Easy. This is what I love.
It turned from a 5-paragraph to about 5 pages.
Pages. Yeah. Easy.
And that's what I initially said, a 5-page paper.
Yeah.
Like, you tell me as a middle schooler to write a 5-page paper on something I want to do. Yeah. I probably would have wrote it. Tell me to write a 5-page paper on something that I haven't conceptually understood. So with reading, I think that it's about the sourcing of what's that person's source material. Right. Like what drives them, what ignites them, and then just allow them to read that from there. So like when I work with students and trying to advance them in literacy skills, like from a tutoring standpoint, I really just try to find key readings, sentences, paragraphs, internet, books, whatever based off their interests. So my first initial step is to survey you. All right. And I think that's the same thing for like us as people. You got to survey yourself around like what gets you going when it comes to information. Yeah. And once you realize like how you learn, how you like getting information, you're gonna always find that. And for me, I started to like hero stories and fictional stories. I started to realize like, yes, it's fiction, but in it, that author was never just trying to get you to see fiction. Yeah. Right. Like Stan Lee. Oh man. The man.
Jack Kirby, all them boys.
Come on, they really was like, and then when you realize that Stan Lee had a black wife, you realize like, oh no, like they weren't in the 60s, they weren't just making these characters to appease a system. I.e., if you look at the CIA's gesture in this book, it was just to monopolize on the fact that, oh, this is how we can maintain more votes. Yeah. And in hindsight, maintaining more votes, they're manipulating their own governmental structure. Yeah. This man's wife said, who can we blame? Yeah. Cool. Blame the CIA. Exactly. They only got people of color who work in the kitchen, they work maintenance, and they work in postal. We need an officer. Yeah. Like that, even that manipulation, it's the same thing with reading. I think reading can become manipulative for young people when it's always, you're just reading to get ready for the Georgia milestone. You're just reading so you can prepare for the SAT. You're just reading so you can be able to read the contract on a job. You're just reading so you can, and everybody signifies reading to this low tier, low functionality, which it has so much more to it. It does. Because in reading is your gateway towards your imagination. Your imagination is your gateway towards understanding everything else around you. Because if I can't imagine myself doing any of these things, imagine myself living a life in a certain way, when I read it, it'll never fit. Yeah, yeah.
No, that's beautiful.
I mean, I'll speak a while. Well, yeah, I kind of similar situation, man. Growing up, the high school, I remember in the summertime, high schools would give us 4 books to pick from. And you had to, when you came into school, you had to do a report on whatever book that you read. And, the Pretty Little Women, like all those types of books that like I legitimately did not give a fuck about. But, it was one thing, I come from a very educated family. And so, it was one thing that my grandmother was going to make sure it was that all of her grandkids graduated from high school. And so whenever, we would get in trouble with grandmother, the punishment was reading the dictionary. And so, yeah, man, but it's, everybody knows how to read. I didn't fall in love with reading until my early to mid 20s. Because I think I told this story to, not you, it was RJ, guest from last time. Man, I was leaving work one day and I saw this old rundown bookstore. I was like, bro, let me just pull up and just, see what's going on. So I went to the Black History portion, and at the very bottom of the bookshelf was Richard Wright's Native Son. Well, I'm from Mississippi. Richard Wright is from Mississippi. And so I was like, I'll put those 2 and 2 together. I was like, let me get this book and just see what's going on. Again, I know how to read, but, I don't have a strong appetite just yet. Nigga, I ran through Native Son, bro, and felt like I felt like that entire 530-page book was a mirror, every page. I was just like, whoa. And so from there sparked W.E.B. Du Bois, Souls of Black Folk. His counterpart, Booker T. Washington, Up From Slavery. How Marcus Garvey kind of fell in there, started studying his speeches. Of course, you study Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and how they went through. Stokely Carmichael. At a certain point in my mid-20s, I just was gaining so much internal confidence because I'm like, well, Booker T's telling me he built an entire school and he ain't had no education. And I got a whole college degree. Richard Wright is literally giving me some of the best books that I've read, and he has an 8th grade education. So ultimately, what excuse do I have? And so that is when reading really just kind of became prominent in my life. And that's, some years have passed, and then we kind of segue here into a Cover2Cover podcast. But yeah, that's kind of my answer to your question on what influenced me and what got me started.
That's beautiful. No, that's dope. And I love it too, because like, I think, and that's the biggest thing as well too, like you were saying, like seeing yourself in it or just having that interest, because as I started to get in my music career and start writing music, like you can't separate me from writing now. I love it. Yeah. Just the art of it. Setting up stanzas, the rhyming schemes, the patterns, things that I learned and, was applicable, but you would have told me that how I could have applied it to music all those years back.
Yeah.
I mean,
like you said, it's just that imagination, man. Of course, imagination starts up top, and whatever you think, that's what you become. And so let's go ahead and tell the people about Freeman, man.
Yeah,
20 minutes to telling people about ourselves.
Let's do it.
First question, man, is what made you pick this book, man? And then I'm assuming people who are watching or listening now have read the book. So what made you pick Spook, Who Sat by the Door, while we following Dan Freeman?
For sure. So for those that are watching, I am an educator. So you see notes, you see underlines. I typed my lesson plan. I had to guide myself. I talk a lot, so I had to guide my thoughts. So, but now, why I picked the book, man, I'm not me reading.
You can read what you got to do.
I just I really want to just make it clear on like what I did, like focus on, because it was a lot. Like, because you started where you were just speaking and you had me thinking about like this book in particular in regards to like who were doing these feats and these acts and what they had. Yeah. And then what we actually have in like reality. Oh man, so I think for me it was, this book is bold. Mm-hmm. Sam Greenlee, I think for me, he took a big risk writing something like this. Yeah. And then publishing it. Like, because we all know J. Edgar Hoover said it himself, they don't want no more black messiahs. Yeah. This to me is the manuscript to create a black messiah. It is legit the manuscript to create another one. Yeah. But it's not one. Because for me, I've always looked at the world as what you see with your 2 eyes. Mm. And it is narcissistic, arrogant to just assume that every day when you wake up, that the existence of this world and how it spins is just for your own being, right?
Yeah.
So when I think about this book, I think about the fact that it can produce more militancy, but not militancy in the sense of harm or danger or strategy for war.
Yeah.
But it could be war, but not physical war, social war.
Yeah.
Strategy for social war, yes. But it's really just a building block on being strategic, being disciplined. And that's what I liked about how bold it was. It's thought-provoking in the sense about how you explore this. Like when they go through the dialogue of like, when Freeman was talking to the dude, and he was like, yeah, man, you know, I'm not really pretty much I'm not a fraternity guy. I'm not into the fraternity stuff like that, like for real. I was just doing it for the chicks. And he was like, well, what did you do? And he was like, I used to be a Kappa. And the dude stopped talking. He was like, well, I still am.
Yeah.
For me, it even dives into the fact of like, people, when you join these organizations, like I'm an Alpha, I'm a Mason, like, but all like everybody's variation of when you're in it, either you come to terms with, well, I'm not, clearly Freeman just realized I'm not using it for the right reason, so I'm not in it.
Yeah.
But there are some people who come to terms with it and they stay in it. But what I liked about the book is you're exploring that through this man's like ideal of, at the end of the day, Dan Freeman was seen as the lowest tier of man in that room.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about this book.
Yeah.
Because when you said reflection, that's for me, that's the reflection.
Yeah.
I was told I wasn't gifted in middle school, right? But my best friend was. He was the valedictorian for every school we went to. His name is Jay George. He's a doctor.
Shout out Jay George.
Hey, one of the dopest people, like literally, it could be interchangeable. Batman, Superman, Mike Lowry, Marcus Burnett, it don't matter. Like, he literally is like I push the envelope because I know, like, I met somebody who in third grade knew what they wanted to be.
Yeah.
And it's still like Dan Freeman. I want to hit the mic. It's like Dan Freeman, you know, like he knew what the point was. I am not here to toy with you.
You never met Dan and he was indecisive about anything.
Nothing. Like,
even when the characters, when Joy, one of his love interests, come in, he's just kind of like, this is, when a person is sure of their cause, that's the reason that they are remembered in history. You know what I mean? And so I don't want me to cut you off, bro.
Even that, speaking about his lovers, like when they were vetting him and they were trying to figure out who is he? Like what is it, like how does he get down? And she was like, oh, like everything she described was just like he far from everything you trying to make him to be.
And this is he's just straight up is like, this is just what he is.
I am that I am.
Yeah. And that's the thing though, it's like, see man, this book, the layers of this book, the layers of black people in America, like this book, bro. You said bold. You got any other things? You said bold and thought-provoking.
Oh yeah, I think it stood out to me like how it focused on gaining knowledge within an oppressive system.
Yeah.
Like, and being strategic about it. At the end of the day, you didn't have, when you get the keys to an office or a building, you can either focus on it as a 9 to 5, or you can focus on it as a space that you got access to.
Talk that shit.
Like, so when I was living in New York and I was teaching in Brownsville, there was a guy named Bilal. He ran the building for real. And you would consider him maintenance. That's what you would say. That's a fool. That man was not maintenance. That man owned an apartment complex behind the school. He had a flower shop, a barber shop. He had land in Uganda, right? And what I think about is, throughout Bilal's experience of wherever he was, when he had that, whatever position they put him in, he just kept gaining knowledge from it.
Yeah.
Because somewhere along the way, you had to ask somebody a question while working in this maintenance space to say, I want to own, I do maintenance, so why not own an apartment complex?
Yeah.
And run it?
Yeah.
Why not own a barbershop and run it? Because I have the focal knowledge of what every building needs, which is maintenance.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, so when I think about it like that, I think about Dan Freeman's, like, knowledge gain ability throughout all of this. Like, he's in the the section chief, right? He's in the postal space all the time, but he's going to the library at night. Yeah. And he's like, they don't see him. He became invisible to them because he wasn't doing the most.
Yeah, he was. We're gonna jump right into question 2, and we're gonna just continue to explore Dan Freeman's life. So, I asked you, the story follows Dan Freeman from first black CIA officer to social worker in Chicago to becoming a ringleader of freedom fighters. In what way do you relate to Freeman the most?
The ability to adapt vastly to different roles.
Okay.
Being from the west side of Atlanta, it's always like this stipulation of like you either were the black bourgeoisie of the SWATs, or you really from the west side, and that's that. Or you got that accent, with the same accent I have right now. But it's like, for me, I just never looked at it as this empowering notion. Like, especially when I got to Morehouse and being in the AUC, like it was like this concept of being a local. I don't know, like that. They didn't make me feel good about the word local. Like I ain't like it. But when I think about it, it's Dan Freeman can go into a space and adapt because he knows the mission. And I think right here for me, it's like I said, ability to adapt vastly different roles while maintaining a strong sense of purpose and identity. Like for me, Dan Freeman, like what resonates with me is purpose and identity. Like the point was to learn to give back.
Yeah.
And then even then, if you really take it from a biblical sense, what is God's mission for all of us? To literally become our most ultimate self. If you want to take it from a Marvel standpoint, right? It's saying be the most superior variant that you can be. Like be your greatest self in time. And when you find that space where you are your greatest self in time, just pour it back.
Go give back.
And how you pour it back, it doesn't have to look like nobody else's. How you pour it back could be community service. It could be podcast interviews where you let your voice be heard because God said, I need people to hear you.
Yeah.
Nobody's perspective is going to change if we keep letting the same people talk all the time and make themselves seem like they are the intellectual institutions of tomorrow's modern world.
I got talking that shit today.
So it's like,
I told you, Quay, it's gonna be a good episode. Yo.
Nah, this
it's
definitely
like,
is a good one.
and I think for me, navigating an oppressive system. I mean, we haven't stopped. Like we haven't stopped. We haven't stopped. It's very tiresome, and I never realized how much of the red pill that I really like took when I decided to be in education that I had to embrace. Because the red pill is straight up, you want to see the truth? Come find out. And going into the classroom, you're seeing the truth because you're seeing the world, you're watching a new world get ready to be built. But then you look at the basis of where that world's skill is, where that world's thought is, where that world's discipline is, you worry a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to highlight those that you see all the time. It was always easy to highlight the kids that are doing well. It's easy to highlight the stars. It's easy to highlight somebody whose father was killing the game and their mother was killing the game. It's easy to highlight them because it's like, it's assumed.
Yeah.
What about that point where it's not assumed? What about those spaces? And watching a world where young people are like, their attention span is now 3 to 5 minutes. And it might be less than that.
Yeah.
When I was teaching, like 6th grade, it was 10 to 18 minutes. So you but why does it fluctuate? Like, why is it fluctuating like that? Like, why? Like the average attention, like the average sermon, right? It's 30 minutes. We wondering why people not going to church no more. It's not just all because of it is some religious balance. Like some people are misusing this guiding point to get people to see that perfect, that acceptable will of God. Right?
Yeah.
But it's only by, through you. But I think navigating an oppressive system is really difficult to do it when you're like worried about what's behind you. Yeah. I look at my achieving and going forward and becoming greater. Like I always got stuck in this loop of survivor's remorse because I'm worried about, well, I can get here and I know the steps to get here. And I have the discipline, I have the motivation, but my profession is not about me becoming a major player in the education industry for my own self gain.
Yeah.
It's becoming a major player in the education industry because I want to, one, provide jobs, provide a space where the learning curve is not a curve that you allow somebody to bend to make you feel like you got to take low-tier instruction from people.
Yeah.
You don't have to demand, like you can demand from more from your teacher.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, but the young people are not taught to do that. And I think for me, like diving into this even more is navigating your personal and your professional spaces. Like this book makes you reflect on that. Like how, like I realize the moments where I was just too rah-rah in spaces for the good of the mission. I'm trying to do big things to like sustain joy for children in the learning space or increase the innovation for what learning can look like. But you also got to realize that when you start yelling out loud, telling the devil your name, he hears you. And once the devil hears your name,
you're a target.
Now you're a target, and now you got to get in the ring.
Yeah.
And now you got to realize, like, yo, he has the same power as God, but not as great. And it is not in the same lens of, the devil's not going to lead you to salvation. He's not going to lead you to be prosperous. He's going to lead you to that, like, quick fix of it all.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think about all the quick fixes in my life. They always have that good moment of, like, what, you get a month? You get a month, right? But that thing that you know is God ordained, like, it's eternal. You transcend in time.
Yeah.
You transcend in time. And I think Freeman's story speaks to the difficulty and necessity of maintaining integrity and focus. His determination to take what he learns from the system and use it to create meaningful change is incredibly inspiring, highlighting the power of resilience and strategic thinking in the pursuit of equity and empowerment. But for me, it's like the strategic thinking.
Yeah.
Like the reason why I picked this book, the reason why I wanted anybody to hear my voice, talk about it with you, is because less stress, more strategy. When you like posted that you had finished it, and I had responded, and I was less stress, more strategy.
Yeah.
This is all about strategy.
Yeah.
And it's all in the sense of like collective strategy.
Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna lie to you. If an alien come tomorrow, I'm actually not worried. I have work for that. I have something for that.
Yeah.
Like I have something for that. Like I prepare for that.
Yeah.
Because I can't sit here and assume that if I don't have any teleportation device, I don't have a floating nothing, I have no ships, so I don't know what's really outside my stratosphere, my atmosphere. I cannot sit there and assume that I'm the only life on Earth. And that's already arrogant because we already living in a world where most people assume that they the only thing that, like, we, right now, somebody else in that hallway could be hearing this conversation, and we're just a function of their life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And therefore, because we're a function of their life, and they hear us doing something in here, they might make some noise or something, but it's like, oh, they working on something, okay.
Yeah.
But it's my reality, right? But we don't realize it's a shared space. So it's a shared strategy when you think about people of color and trying to manage an oppressive system.
Yeah.
And then it goes down to who's leading. And then that's a whole nother concept. Because one thing about Dan Freeman that I appreciate is that he never made himself the singular leader.
He didn't, yeah.
And he empowered you to understand why you need to lead you.
Yeah.
When the brother got mad about having to go to the bank because he was, he's passing.
Yeah.
He was blown. He was really blown. In so many words, he was like, bro, like, it made me laugh because I think about the film too. He pretty much was saying, like, I don't care what you say about how passing you think I am. To the cracker, to the white man, I'm a nigga.
Yeah.
I'ma always be a nigga, and I'm gonna stay a nigga. And I'm probably gonna die a nigga before you, nigga, by one of these same white people. And not to use that colloquialism in a way, but I'm from the West Side, so I've re-empowered the term. It does not hurt me. And I didn't put an ER on it. Just be clear. But I think like at the end of the day, the basis of that is strategic thinking.
Yeah.
And as a people, I'm gonna be honest, we don't strategically think as a unit.
I agree.
We strategically think for ourselves. But your individual gain is not stopping an atomic bomb. It is only going to, you can only support in praying for them folks who know how to do that work. And we pray that we got enough of them. And we pray that we got enough of them that actually do look like us, who can be in the room to say, well, look, this atomic bomb has a blast radius of this, or wait, that's Atlanta. No, because sometimes you could be a sacrificial lamb and didn't even know it because you're not in the room.
Yeah.
Because you don't have no strategy to even be in the space to just listen. Another thing Dan Freeman does so well that he teaches you.
He just sat back and
Just
listen,
sit back
bro.
and listen.
He was kicking it with the generals the whole time, and they sitting back saying everything, all the
stuff.
all the business, all the tea. He just sitting back, just soaking it up.
In the book, it was the brothers was talking. They was like, "Oh, are you frat? Are you a Q?" In the movie, it was like, "What school did you go to?" Fisk. Mm-hmm. I'm a Howard man. What did you pledge? I'm an Alpha. And they start doing the handshake.
Yeah.
Like they doing all this stuff. Then they talking about the whiskey. One dude literally talking about the fact that, and you saw it, the commissary. He's like, oh, this is premium. You know, we don't even this costs you $3.79 in the commissary. But when you realize the fact that they was watching them through a screen, it makes you think about that as a system of you're always being watched.
Yeah.
And as a person of color, there's going to be a different mechanism to make sure you're being watched. Because you can either be two things, a threat or a threshold.
Boy, coming in with the quote, man. Go ahead and just.
I'm just saying you a threat or a threshold, and I'd rather be a threshold because at least I know I'm holding something up.
Yeah.
Than to be considered a threat, and then you don't even know what you're scared of. Yeah. And you scared of jargon. You scared of the fact that I can dress a little bit. You know, you scared of the fact that I know how to like duality.
Yeah.
Real duality. Not in the sense of I'm not playing nothing.
Yeah.
I'm just playing chess with you.
Yeah.
You the opponent today. If I'm playing a 17-year-old in chess, I'm gonna play with him a little different. I might smirk or two. When I'm playing a grandmaster, I'm looking him in his eye, I'm giving him his just due, and I'm probably not talking because I'm watching. Gotta be aware.
Dan Freeman reincarnated, ain't you, huh?
I don't know. Don't call it like that. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want no smoke.
But even with that, though, I think one of the biggest things, too, because I want to, this is a podcast, so I just want to add wherever I can. I think the biggest thing, too, as we was talking about with this last question, just to throw a little more sauce on it as well, is what I hope for in the future for us, and not just being, you know what I'm saying, governing ourselves, is that I would love, like Dr. Umar, I think we had mentioned him a little earlier or whatnot. You had mentioned Dr. Umar earlier. Yeah. Like, one of the biggest things that I pray and I want to lead is the organization of our people, because that's like one of the first steps that we have to and need to do. We need to be unified under this first.
Yeah.
Like, everything else is great. Like, yes, but we need to organize, because then we can start using our power and using our influence of how important we really are in this country to leverage certain things. So I'm just giving that to the audience as a listener, but we can come on.
Sure, no, for sure.
Because we all down for the unity, man.
Got to, man.
And that's one of the things that's the thing that I enjoyed about Freeman. Freeman could be a lone wolf, but he could also run with the wolf pack at the same time, man. And Turk, as they called him.
As they called
him in the book. I answered the question, man, you know, in what way do I relate to Freeman? And I ended up going back, looking at some of the notes that I highlighted. And I'm going to read this quick little segment. He's, at this time, Freeman has kind of found his way back into Chicago as a social worker. Now he's kind of mixing with the Cobras, which is the gang that he used to be in, and that now he kind of, the social work that he's doing is looking to aid the Cobras, but Freeman's playing his part. Nevertheless, here's the segment. He says, they listened to Miles Records and to Lady Day, Press, Monk, Diz, and the rest, and began hearing things in jazz that they had heard in rhythm and blues. They listened to the down-home blues. He became the father and the big brother they had never had, and although he fought it, he returned their affection and love. He knew that this could be a fatal weakness, but he could not help it. He watched them grow now that they had a purpose, and found it sad that there was nothing for them in this land where their ancestors had lived for hundreds of years except destruction. But in that negative urge to strike out against oppression, they had found something that had freed them from their fears and the doubts about themselves and their color. He watched them grow and become more human, and knew that their newfound humanity would not inhibit their becoming the killers that he was training them to be. The amount of duality, bro, within that segment I think I ended up writing, the note that I put was damn. And, you know, well, how do I relate to Freeman? I relate to Freeman in a variety of ways in that, you know, we see he's sitting down with these guys, and not only is he educating them, but he's also like giving them more culture. Miles Davis, you know, listen, sit back, and they were discussing artwork, and just exposing them to becoming more human and, you know, tapping into elements that aren't as hostile as the environment that they're living in. The thing that, and you're going to hear this word duality in this podcast plenty of times, but the thing that, another way that I relate to him is that there was, in that passage when he says he became their father and their big brother they had never had. Although he fought it, he returned their affection and love. He knew that this could be fatal weakness, but he could not help it. And I sit back and think about, even you know, you're teaching young boys who, some of them may not have father figures in their life. And so they may not even articulate to you. You may have felt this even as you teach them, but like they're looking up to you. And even if they never come in contact with another black man of stature and of importance, they'll remember you for, you know, for the rest of their lives. Because again, that was when you invest something into somebody, they know it. Even if they're 5th, 6th graders, like this person cares about me more than anything that the world has ever shown me, which led me to a James Baldwin quote when he says to be relatively conscious is to be in a state of rage almost all the time. And the reason it made me come to that quote, if I jump back into the passage, it says, he watched them grow, and now that they had a purpose, he found it sad that there was nothing for them in this land except destruction. So you as Freeman, you're sitting back, you're seeing this young generation that's now, you can see the life in their eyes begin to expand as you had introduced them to not even just these military concepts, but to this different type of jazz, art, rhythm, and blues. You're seeing the human that becomes and grow and flourish right in front of you. But the sadness is that you know that the cause that they're about to eventually and inevitably be put in is only going to lead to destruction. So, I mean, you know, how do you watch your child grow knowing that he's going to die? And more than likely because of violence. And so ultimately the conclusion that I put with that was Freeman's desire to give back while simultaneously knowing the destruction down the road spoke to his leadership and the complexity of black leadership during that time. And so, you know, the famous Martin Luther King quote, I feel like I've integrated my people into a burning building. He's saying that knowing that he still put his life on the line to do that integration. And so the damned if you do, damned if you don't, but still have to do it anyway, that is the thing that is the reason that you see so much just black hostility in America, is because that type of duality, we're fighting it every day. You're going to continue to go out and educate these young brothers, knowing damn well that when they step into white spaces, they're going to be seen less than. But it's still on you to ultimately give it. Yeah, because now that you've been awakened and you know the cause, like it's still on you to like continue to push that drive.
Yeah, that's the key point there. It's like what happens once you're awakened?
Yeah.
And I think that's the issue I have with like people consider themselves leaders or like the celebrity culture, right? I don't have no smoke with you getting yours and becoming a stellar being in what you do well. Like that's just simply you took your 10,000 hours and you did it right.
Yeah.
Not mad at that. But to say that because you've achieved this much in this lane, that I'm supposed to drop everything I'm doing and just embrace your thought and your ideal as if it's like a common law of philosophy, like you Moses.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah. It's
hard, but that's the nature of it all. Like,
but I think, and to kind of cut into what you're saying when you brought up Moses, the way that I genuinely believe that the way you can find good leaders is finding people who never wanted to be leaders but are in leadership positions. Moses never wanted to be a leader.
I'm running from it every day.
God told it, you know what I mean? Because like it's very much a very lonely road. And you know, the weight of decisions that you have to make on a day-by-day basis, nobody really is clamoring to be a leader. Jokers are just, some people are just so regularly like, okay, this is just what my calling is. Fuck it, we just got to do it. And so to that point of celebrity culture and its tie into leadership, I always found it to be, you know, a dog and pony show in the fact that it's just like, dude, nobody wants to be, it's like the quarterback of a team. When the team loses, it's his fault. When they win, it's everybody else. Nobody wants that, but certain people realize this is my calling. what is the best way? How can I align with God? And what is the best way for me to approach this?
Yeah.
And so that's when you had said Moses, that's how I kind of
that's the point though. It's like the whole idea that God qualifies the call, right? Like that's a real big thing. And for me, like I hear like you hear somebody call you the GOAT or something, right?
Yeah.
But what's crazy is what happens when you start acting like it. Now you're a problem.
Yeah.
And you call me the GOAT. And I learned the philosophy of LeBron James. I'm not gonna call myself none of it. but if you call it and you say I am, that's what you're seeing, then why can't I lean into it?
Yeah.
And I think that's what like with this notion of like having a strategy or being collectively organized in the same vein of what you were building up your point, it really requires us to like pull back and realize that a lot of this work is a lonely sport.
Yeah.
Like we all essentially are leaders.
Yeah, yeah.
But we gotta realize like what we're leading for. And it's always been hard for me realizing that like when my students get to my classroom, I'm looking at the kids that was always being said like they just don't function and they don't sustain themselves. They're always getting sent out to the dean's office, this and that, whatever. But then when they get to my room, they functioning. They asking me questions.
Yeah.
They sitting by my desk. I don't have no smoke from them. Then you go into the teacher workroom and you talk about that kid and it's like, well, how? It's impossible.
Yeah.
Or now your classroom must not be that rigorous. Or if your classroom is the fun classroom and you not rigorous. And that's just not, no. You understand that like, if you ask any kid that I work with, they knew I was not taking no shit.
Yeah.
I was on their neck. Like they knew, like damn, like it was like two dams. Damn, we got to go to Mr. Driver class. Damn, that was a good ass class.
Yeah.
It was gonna be always two dams.
Yeah.
But regardless of it all, they knew that I was committed. I was invested. They knew that I was trying to lead myself because I was always being honest with them.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you, like, yo, I am trying to figure this out just like you. Like when I was in New York, I'm 22 years old when I start my teaching career. When I graduated from Morehouse spring 15. Fall 15, I'm 22, going on 23. But I just never realized that feeling. When you see it hit their eyes, they light up. Everything you expose them to. Then the unfortunate part of it all is that sometimes it gets lost because you don't realize how big this world is and how much of it can just engulf them at one time if we not strategically like working together, like, and to the point of you can impact the world one way as much as you want. He can impact the world one way as much as he wants. I can do the same thing. But when everybody who encounters us can't collectively like encounter you, encounter him, encounter me, encounter you, encounter him, encounter me, and it becomes a system. Yeah, it's never gonna work. Yeah, because you in one pocket of peace, you're in another pocket of poverty, and you're in another pocket of just personal gain. Because peace, for real, I believe that once you reach a certain peace, your personal gain and all that stuff kind of like withers away a little bit because you kind of, I'm here. Yeah. You kind of just acknowledge it. I'm here. Like I am stable. I am a faction. Yeah. I am a factor. I am the adverse effect to somebody's problem. I am the solution to somebody's problem. Yeah. I am the result. Like I think like that's what like with Dan Freeman, like he was trying to teach them young men to be the result. Yeah. But like cause with music, I don't know if Sam Greenlee was diving into it that way or not, but when I taught 5th grade science, they had us have 1 week after testing where we could create our own lesson plans and do what we wanted. And I said, finally. I did a lesson on music therapy and how music enhances your higher metacognitive abilities as a student, mainly when you listen to music without words. So I had my students do work where it was like, I want you to answer this question, no music. I'm gonna play music. I want you to answer the same question, but I want you to think about how you're focusing and how you feeling when you hear it. One song was Knee Deep by Parliament. Another one it was called Shine On. Another one was called Chosen by Blood Orange. And I forgot the other one. But I know, like, they start to realize, like, wait, in this move, it was the Knee Deep was the one that made it work. Like, Knee Deep was the one that was working. Like, the better answers came from that beat where because that's what we are as a people.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about Dan going to the Cobras first.
Yeah.
You always it's easy to go to the top of the class.
Yeah.
And they don't even be that ambitious.
That boy Dan did not like the black bourgeoisie, man.
Bro.
And it was funny because, like, as I was doing my notes, I've done a couple episodes where I said a couple of snark things about black bourgeoisie. So I was like, all right. I was doing my notes. I was like, all right, I'm not gonna really go at black bourgeoisie as much on this episode as I have in episodes past. But I mean, Dan was encountering them along the way, man, and it was just so interesting to me because when they first pop up in the in like the CIA boot camp, if you will, you know, like you were saying, you know, like what did you pledge or what school did you go to? He just kind of he said back and said in the text that they assumed that he was kind of like the lowest on the totem pole, and he just kind of like rocked with that.
Let it cook. His clothing didn't even look like he was supposed to be there.
Exactly. But also in the story, as it goes on, it says he had the highest marks. He was the best marksman out of all of them. He scored the highest on the test. And it was because, again, like, you had a man who had purpose. You know, the black bourgeoisie was just floating on the simple fact of, I got legacy behind me. Okay, well, that's cool if you're white. If you're black, you're still a nigga. You're still a nigga.
You just flexing legacy on your own people.
That's exactly. And so it was funny because I was trying to flexing legacy on your own people. I was like, man, does that tie into the duality that, you know, the double consciousness that, is there even a triple consciousness for those who aren't in the black elite?
I would say it's quadruple.
Talk.
I work 4 times as hard.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day. When I tell people I'm from the west side of Atlanta, you know, that could be taken. If I start that way without talking about Morehouse and all that could be taken a whole nother way.
Yeah.
That could be taken a whole nother way. And I realized, and I'm like, wow, like, I never acknowledged how blessed I was by God to have this route. Because I love being around the black bourgeoisie now. Because I'm a big flex to their existence. Yeah. I know they be sick.
Yeah.
I know they be sick.
Yeah.
Especially ones that's like, I'm from Atlanta. Oh, yeah? And it's not even about I'm from Atlanta. It's just this notion of, but you never really got it. And it's not about the glorifying the mud. I don't ever want mud.
In fact, yeah.
I don't ever want mud. The only time I want mud is when I was a kid and we was making mud pies for fun. Like, that's the mud. That's the only kind of trench. And even I'll take a trench to learn landscape.
Yeah.
But I'm not trying to be in the trenches all the time. Yeah. That's just not it. But when it comes down to like the black bourgeoisie or what that caliber of like, I used to make jokes about Jack and Jill when I was a kid. And I'd be like, man, I don't know no Jack and Jill, man. I ain't rolled down no hill with them folks.
It's so
I didn't roll down no hill with them folks. But no, for me, I just had so many small encounters.
Yeah. Where
people you could just tell that they looking over you in a certain way. And when I was at Morehouse, it wasn't that particular, like it wasn't particularly people were doing it to you. But if you got in their proximity, it's like they tried to make their presence so grand, the friend group's presence so grand that everything they do is just. So now, you know, you make a reference to like being at TGS, right? I never felt less being there because that was the plateau of like making it clear. Mm-hmm. Like I went to New York to build an infinity gauntlet. When I get back to Atlanta, I'm collecting my stone.
That boy talking cash money shit. We fought with it, bro.
I'm collecting my stones. Like, for real, I'm collecting my stones. And I think, but then being in both worlds, I'm still dealing with the reality of, like, what I built myself out of. Yeah. But I still have family who are not sustaining the same. There's still means I want my parents to have. Yeah. But to get that meaning I would have to, like, sacrifice mostly half of what I have to get to that for them. And my dad still has a job. My mom's not working right now, but my dad's the chief engineer at a Marriott hotel. But it's like still all the work that they've done, like the way life is unfolding, it still hasn't set them up to be able to live a comfortable life the way they deserve.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that we own a house together.
Yeah.
I love that. And being a family that went to multiple houses all the time and they never really have a stable place. And then I grew up on 1400 Donnelly Avenue. The Krogers, there are 2 Krogers, right?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about,
the
bro.
Krogers right there by Guilford Forest. And you got the Krogers by the West End.
Yeah.
I grew up behind that Krogers on 1400 Donnelly Avenue.
Yeah.
From sophomore year to senior year of high school. Like, and those are integral parts of your life because in high school, that's where everybody,
yeah.
It's all social. And living in an apartment behind Kroger's, socially is not the coolest thing.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it because I remember I have to reflect on that. I have to think about the fact that we paid a lot of rent, a lot.
Yeah.
So therefore, that's a lesson in finance. That moving from house to house is not even just about the rent and the money. It's the who do you got to answer to sustain your living? Because your landlord is the person that has the bearings on you. You know.
Yeah.
And I don't want to keep living like that.
Yeah.
But when you realize that, like, you get to the level of where people who've been around it all their lives and their parents have been doing it, they hear you talking and it's just like, it's either twofold. It's like, show me, cool. Or it's like, what? Like, you know, and not in the sense of that they don't believe you could do it. It's just like, they're just so engulfed in a world where it's been so accessible to just get it done because they have the means that somebody that they hear who didn't have that same route, they're looking at like, well, like, there's like, how?
Yeah.
Like, how are you gonna?
Yeah.
Like at 32, there's probably somebody who like, you probably will never be a millionaire. But then there's somebody who like, you could definitely be a millionaire. Like, I've done it.
Yeah.
Twice fold. Like, you know, like David Moody. Remember the event at TGS?
Mm-hmm.
David Moody started his career at 31.
Yeah.
Like the David Moody we know today started 1 year ago from my age.
Mm.
That's lit.
Yeah.
And I think he was 61 when he did that event. That means 31 years of winning.
Yeah.
So where that day he was like, I'll never forget. He was like, yeah, man, I just got my first tattoo. Like, this is a 61-year-old man. Like, that's like who in reality, research says that you got a mortality rate of him will only have 7 more years.
Yeah.
Because we only got till 68.
Yeah.
And even stuff like that. Like, I don't believe Dan Freeman will let you tell him how long he gonna live, right?
Man, Dan, I think the thing with Dan though is Dan knew what his path was gonna be, man.
Right. That's why he disappeared in the wind, right?
Huh?
Said that's why he disappeared in the wind. It's left to interpretation.
It is, but it's funny because, you know, even as they were getting closer to the book, closer to the end, you know, he was kind of sitting back mapping these things out. I mean, again, he was sitting back talking about the whole 10,000 hour concept with him. The thing I always appreciated about Dan was his patience, man. Like, even when like the riots were starting to brew up, and even when, you know, he's having these, I remember, you know, one of the points in the book, he had a meeting with one of the generals who basically told him, you know, from an educational standpoint, like, you know, black people just aren't going to be up to our speed anytime soon. And, you know, Dan was just kind of like, I wanted to punch this nigga in the face. But, like, he just knew that quick, you know, half-second punch would cost everything that he's been working on all the way up to that point. And so that's the thing that Dan was... Let's jump into the next question, bro.
Yeah, man.
Let's jump into the next question. We're up here changing lives, getting... Quay, you hit the timer for me, bro. I'm only on question 3. I know it. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. Freeman's actions blurred the line between hero and anti-hero. How does the novel challenge traditional notions of morality in the pursuit of justice?
So thinking about my notes, right? You think about the idea that you're dealing with systemic oppression and revolutionary action.
Mm-hmm.
That's the focus. And then you think about the fact that it's like morally ambiguous, low key.
Yeah.
It's morally ambiguous. You really can't.
High key, really.
High key. Because purpose and destiny, right? Once it's kind of like instilled in you in a way, there's no way to really deter you from that.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to like how you feel like it's been delivered to you. And for Dan Freeman, I don't know, I think the way Sam Greenlee played it out is like his purpose and destiny was to be the catalyst and spark towards informational awareness, destiny discipline. Not just discipline. You can be disciplined, but we talking about destiny discipline.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different. Like being disciplined enough to understand that like your destiny has to happen.
Yeah.
And you have to keep going.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be hard because you can't speak to nothing else without experience.
Yeah.
And most experiences, you don't even remember, if you think about it, all the moments in your life where you had fun and joy, you don't even remember those.
Yeah.
You don't even remember that stuff. But you do remember the experiences that were hard, that helped deliver you to a sense of self.
Yeah.
Because that gave you information. I used to teach my students, information is power, power is priceless. And I got that from the remake of Superfly with Trevor. Yeah, the remake. So, and I keep saying it to this day. Information is power, power is priceless. So when you think about this work, by presenting Freeman as a complex character, the novel pushes readers to move beyond binary thinking of good versus evil or hero versus villain. It emphasizes that in the fight for justice, actions that may seem extreme or morally gray often arise as necessary responses to entrenched systemic violence. The book ultimately compels us to grapple with the uncomfortable, but the important question of it all is, how far will we go to achieve liberation and justice for the oppressed? Like that's it for me. Like how far are we gonna allow ourselves to just keep staying in last place?
Yeah.
How far are we gonna keep allowing somebody to tell us to go to the colors only water fountain? How long are we gonna, because in so many ways, the world and era that King and X, and Medgar Evers, and James Baldwin, and Zora Neale Hurston, Ralph David Abernathy, the things that they were fighting for, like they got it for us, but we gradually just kept giving it back to the point where we gave back major components of these systems, and then what was left over for us was what they just need to like smoke and mirrors. It's just enough to get us by.
Yeah.
And Michael Jordan pushed the envelope. I love the book Relentless, From Good to Great to Unstoppable by Tim Grover. And Tim Grover is Michael Jordan's trainer, Kobe Bryant's trainer, and Dwayne Wade. But he really highlights the experiences of what it means to work with all of them. But he has this concept of cooler, closer, and a cleaner. A cooler is a person that kind of just like get in the mix, get it done, handle it. A closer, you'll give them the ball to shoot the last shot of the game. A cleaner is the person you call when even the greatest person is having struggles.
I like that.
And when I think about like a cleaner, Dan Freeman's a cleaner.
Yeah.
Because they not waiting on decisions. That's what Tim Grover says. Like cleaners not waiting on decisions.
Yeah.
And they not waiting to make the choice. The choice already made. Because at the end of the day, it's results.
Yeah.
That's what cleaners know.
That was the reason I kind of framed the question with hero versus anti-heroes. Like when I was going through kind of looking at reviews, of course there were a few of them out there who painted Dan Freeman as his anti-hero.
Oh, well, you know what they look like, right?
Of course.
Oh, okay.
Of course. But it was like you were saying, man, I was like, it's how far can morality truly be factored in when we're talking about freeing somebody who's oppressed? My thing was that when I saw the way Dan Freeman acted, like Dan had the Cobras, from what I read, the Cobras never attacked anybody innocent. And they never attacked anybody who wasn't, quote unquote, in the system. You know what I mean? The condition read was, hey, they bring in the National Guard, okay, we got fighters too. And if anything, when the riots were kind of at its peak, and the white people were kind of talking to Dan, well, is it the Cobras? And like, no, the Cobras are actually kind of chilling, because Dan understands the long game, and with that, that's why I felt like he was such a hero. One, because again, it's these young brothers are being taught military tactics, hand-to-hand combat. their history, the history of the society that they live in, and it's like you said, it's not just discipline, it's destiny discipline. And so like we're not just going to be doing these things just because we want to be better people. Like no, there is a cause that ultimately, as you guys will figure out, is bigger than even you. And so Dan realized that. He was working to get the guys, the young brothers, to realize that as well, because when people are fighting for things that are bigger than them, they're willing to do far more. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I saw Dan as a hero, because you're fighting an oppressive system. Like you said, bro, this is the 1960s, bro. Political assassination is sport to these niggas, bro.
Easy money.
Like,
it's easy money.
Medgar Evers, we're gunning you down in your driveway, fresh from you off of work. Malcolm X right there in front of a crowd of people.
Come on, Fred.
JFK, we knock you down, Fred. We do it like it's
your apartment,
Fred. We coming to you with your girl in the house.
Your girl in the house.
Your pregnant girl in the house.
Even if we missed, we wanted you to be scared.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know if I'm not going to lie. They probably didn't plan to kill Fred like that. I think they did that to intimidate, bro, and it was too much fire because she didn't get hit.
Yeah, pregnant girlfriend didn't get hit.
So it was like I think they were just they was like 4 people were shooting instead of 2.
Yeah,
and they probably wanted 2 people to shoot just to make an intimidation factor. Because I just don't like what.
But but even when you go back to that point, when all right, this isn't just, the city cop that's after me. Nigga, this is the Federal Bureau of Investigations, J. Edgar Hoover, there's no more Black Messiah. Like, boom, 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 phone call, we know where your wife and your mom stays at. Like, those type of phone calls on a day-to-day basis.
You being followed, your phone tapped.
Like, but again.
Your favorite restaurants, the person that bring you your coffee no longer the same person. Like,
and you're sitting back, you're Dan Freeman. You go to your girl and they sit back and say, a couple of cops came and asked me about you. And again, my relationship with you from Dan to Joy is quiet. Nobody knows about me and you.
You're not even supposed to be known.
You're not even supposed to be known.
You were late the other night. How they found you?
So yeah, it's camera's going crazy on Quay. But yeah, it's one of those things, man, where I with Dan, man, one of the things that I really fell upon early in my 20s was the Black Panthers. Huey Newton, Bobby Seale, all those brothers, bro. Young, fresh out of college. Some of them, I remember hearing how one of them was like 17 and he was running a chapter in the northeast part of the city of the country. But yeah, man, going back to the whole hero versus anti-hero and Dan Freeman. When you're all of my, I saw this quote years ago, man. It's a meme more so, not even a quote, but it said all of my heroes have mugshots, and it was referring to Malcolm X's mugshot. Not Malcolm X's, but Malcolm X's mugshot, King's mugshot, Stokely Carmichael's mugshot, Angela Davis's mugshot, and so all of the people who were fighting for their freedom and the freedom of their community and the freedom of the greater good, all of those niggas were going up against a system that was so corrupt that. In the immediate history, it's telling them that, these are anti-heroes. But then, after time has passed and,
full-fledged heroes.
Full-fledged heroes, absolute revolutionaries.
The anti-hero not really a bad guy. They just go about it in a particular way.
Yeah.
Like, the Punisher's an anti-hero. He's still morally, he had some kind of moral compass.
Yeah.
It was just based in revenge.
Yeah.
But then why, right?
Why? Yeah. Why is a person seeking revenge? Yeah. Why is Dan going to these poor communities? Because keep asking the why. Why is Dan going to these poor communities, educating these young kids? Why not school system doing that? And so then that's the questions that people don't want to answer, though.
And that's what the government wasn't doing. They weren't asking questions toward, well, this secret faction, even though we know it's the Cobras and Dan, why are they doing this?
Yeah.
Nowhere in the book they asked that.
Yeah.
Because it didn't matter.
It did not matter. And he was saying that it didn't matter. And it's, it's a certain part in the book. It'd take me a minute to find it.
But that goes to show you a deep dive of how we need to low key be looking at the world. They're not asking. We're getting asked the same question as a people, right? Mm-hmm. What do we need to? And what's interesting about being asked such a disrespectful question to me. The reason why I say it's disrespectful is because if you are in a predicament of your life where you are enjoying a certain type of joy and livelihood and existence, you don't have to share yours. But why wouldn't you want to share the concept of that to others?
Yeah.
And then when people create groups and organizations and systems and factions that are anti what you consider anti-you, or anti-your progress or anti-your program, it's only based in the fact that you don't know why.
Yeah.
And you probably don't plan to find out why.
Yeah.
And why is everything. And I think that's where we as a people just have to really like own and hold on to, which is our why.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like my individual why and your why and his why can compound.
Yeah.
And then we take that and we take it to a neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we help them take their whys and compound.
Yeah.
Now we got a community.
Yeah.
And now they take that community and add that to another community, and now we got a city.
Yeah.
And then boom, we got a state, and now we got a nation. But it's all about just sharing the concepts of what that joy, that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. How can you live in a world where only half the world getting it?
Yeah.
Or half the nation is getting it? Because the world, that's a whole nother concept. And then if even from the perspective of being an African-American male, it's like, from a global standpoint, to know that there's a child who's starving or a child who can't read or a child who can't function, I would love to do something about it. And I don't ever want nobody ever to think that I'm not committed to that kind of change, especially when we talk about the motherland of like Africa.
Yeah.
But I see here.
Yeah.
See, I'm not blind to it.
Yeah.
I'm not taller than it. I'm not overlooking it. I'm not trying to be sometimes people just want to be a giant so they can just overlook they woes that they either came from, like people of color mainly.
Yeah.
Like we're trying to become giants just to overlook what we already have been like induced to.
Yeah.
And then to be able to stand with the people who make it look so good.
Yeah.
And I never realized, I never seen nobody chase oppression the way that we do sometimes.
Dan has said it in the book about the black bourgeoisie. He said they wanted to be whiter than white folk. It's just so crazy to me.
I mean, like, everything we do is a mirror image of something that's already been done by people that don't look like us.
Yeah.
Like, it's not saying that we couldn't have the BET Awards, but it could just be something different.
Yeah.
It could just been like, what if it was a thing where every city has people from their communities at the Fox, at the Superdome in New Orleans. The main show is in LA, but it's it's live everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you still watching it at home.
Yeah.
But there's just even at home, there was something that BET sent everybody in the mail. I mean, something.
Yeah.
To create and connect with our way of doing things. Like, Jack and Jill's cool, but Jack and Jill, you can only get in it when your parents make a certain income.
Yeah. Yeah.
Therefore, you're already perpetuating this message that you have to be here and your parents got to be there. So you got to think now, I'm in school now, I'm already realizing, oh, shoot, I ain't in Jack and Jill. My parents don't make enough money.
Yeah.
Who should? And then you internalize that, and then you going home and you charging up your parents about not making a lot of money. And then now you charging up an adult about their livelihood and what happened to
Probably
them.
done work 14 hours in that day.
Man,
You
what?
know what I mean?
And my mom been through some things. My
Bro,
dad.
and I don't even mean to cut you off, but
Oh, yeah.
again, like when you just said earlier that, your pop's been working for this entire time, they don't really have much to say. But bro, I remember I was in a gym one time, man. His dad, this older gentleman was talking to me. He had a son, and he said that he was able to give his son a used car. And he said his son was upset, because it was a used car. Now, mind you, conversations from this guy, he lower middle class, but I could see kind of like the disappointment on his face because Pops probably worked long hours to buy that car. And, when we talk about one generation passing the baton, essentially that was one of his ways that he was kind of passing that baton. Son, you ain't got to catch the bus. Son, you can, get from point A to point B. Here's the vehicle, make it happen. But you know, it's not it doesn't come fresh off the lot, doesn't come from overseas. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not the brand new thing, and so because there's a classism behind it, I can't appreciate it as much. And I think, of course, black people, which kind of goes into that the fourth question I wanted to ask you about duality. It is, when black people deal with that duality, you kind of said it should be quadruple, because I definitely think it's more than just black and white. It's definitely a classism thing as well. And so I'm gonna just ask you, how does Freeman's ability to navigate between his role as a CIA agent and his identity as a black revolutionary reflect the theme of duality?
Oh man, so what I loved about it is, in my notes, he repurposed knowledge.
Yeah.
He had to repurpose knowledge. In the film and in the book, it's like when he was having a one-on-one conversation with the head director before he was about to get ready to give the tour.
Mm-hmm.
And they were having a conversation about like people of color and like, you know, you're a fine representation of your folks.
Yeah.
And he was talking about the fact that, like, you know, we still as a people still have a little bit more ways to go. We got to work a little harder. But if you watch the film, there's a black man who's serving the both of them, and he's like getting a cigar ready. And when Freeman made the comment, yeah, as a people we still got a little ways to go, the black man said, and then went back to fixing up the cigar. Because at the end of the day, Freeman still had to play both sides.
Yeah.
Like, in the book, he's walking with her in the same sense, but she's getting ready to take him to do the tour. The white woman he was talking with.
Yeah.
And she was like, Freeman, every time you come around me, you just act like you don't like me as much. Like what's going on? He was like, nah, I'm just focused.
Yeah.
Like that's like, I'm just the duality of it all.
Yeah.
Like we go to a place, you don't say much, you locked in, now you too serious.
Yeah.
You go to a place, hey everybody, ha ha, you too joyful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, I think Dan mastered duality in a sense enough to just say, these aspects of me are who's gonna show up when I'm focused on getting a certain type of result.
Yeah.
And I think that's the importance of it all. Like, what's the results you're looking for? And these versions of you, these are not versions.
Yeah.
It's all you. It's like when you think about when you do something bad or you mean, you be like, that's not me. No, it is.
Yeah.
It is. It is you.
Yeah.
It is. Now, there's only a certain you that's going to acknowledge that energy and that response comes from you. But it's you.
Yeah.
But it's still power.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you repurpose it,
Yeah.
you want something different.
It continues if you also.
No, I'm just saying, like, you repurpose it, you just moving different. So duality is not, I'm a different person when I get into, no, to me, it's chess.
Yeah.
I have to see meet your opponent where they are. In chess, the only time I gotta talk to you is when I say checkmate. So I just gotta watch.
Yeah.
I just gotta watch.
Yeah.
I don't gotta say nothing.
Yeah.
And watching is so much you gain from that.
Quay, you got something? I feel like you want to jump in before I jump in, because I
just thought that last statement that you had made was just like purely powerful. Just speaking on duality, because a lot of people run from that as well. It's like, oh, that's not me, or I'll never do. No, that definitely is you. And the beautiful thing about it is, because that was a lesson I had to learn, like maybe like 4 or 5 years ago or whatnot. Like, you know, with that, it's like, no. But once I acknowledge it and I take accountability for it, now it's just like you said. Now I can control it. Now that I know I have that, now that I know that is a part of me and that's something that is in me, now I don't let it control me, I control it.
Bruh, if you really think about it, Superman afraid of darkness, Batman afraid of light. He don't want to feel too much when he got the cape and cowl on because he want to keep his judgment at a certain level.
Yeah.
Superman don't want to get too angry because he know he's extremely powerful.
Yeah.
Like, he can flick you and break you. So, like, you know, so we talking about, like, two worlds of what it means to let go. And there's a part of you where you gotta let go and your anger gotta carry you.
Yeah.
Like when you playing basketball or sport or you doing like workouts or something, or say you doing that Tough Mudder type stuff. You ain't gonna get through that unless you gotta go get that dog gotta come out of you, because it's either, and it's only activated in two ways. Competitiveness, oh shit, I'm losing. Or it might be an instructor there who's just talking shit. Or it could be a peer talking shit.
Yeah.
But something like your light ain't gonna get you through Tough Mudder.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, everybody, we're gonna do this together.
Yeah.
You're gonna walk and I'm gonna walk. No, hell no. Hell no. It's straight up like, but who got through it? You did.
Yeah.
But, so, man, Dan taught me to embrace, like, going through this, it was like I looked at this as like, God was like, he knew what I was going through. I needed a re-spark into wanting to build my school again. I needed a re-spark into accepting that I am a leader of men with purposes and destinies that need a little bit more discipline. Because we're not just talking about, like, we got men who are serving as early literacy tutors and have never done education in any shape, form, or fashion before us. Yeah. Some want to do it full-time, some didn't know, some thinking about it doing full-time now, but at the end of the day, I think about the fact that I have a small group of 32. We the only group in Atlanta outside of our 5 regions, because we got Milwaukee, D.C., Baltimore, Cincinnati. But out of our 5 regions, we're the only group in Atlanta intervening on a global issue, which is literacy.
Yeah.
And when I think about Dan Freeman and the experience of going through this book, it made me realize that the duality of it all is, when I'm in this work with them young men, sometimes I gotta always apologize and be like, yo, like I don't want nobody to feel like I'm trying to like come for you or not, like, but I don't expect excellence from you. I'm just trying to do my best to get it out of you, because who else pushing you like this?
Remember that segment I read when he said he became his father and their big brother? Like, it's moments of, I don't have a big brother, but of course I have a father. It's a little couple of clashes of the head with my dad. But again, it's, my dad's 30 years older than me. He's like, I've seen the world 30 years before you can, of the things that you think that you are about to encounter.
My daddy's 71.
Yeah.
No, my mom's 74. My sister 48. Like, even then, like, my way of, like, I always felt like I had duality with my peers, because my peers, I felt like, I wouldn't say I would dumbing myself down, but I would socially lower my levels because I actually didn't hang out with people who was my age a lot. Like, I'm in 8th grade, my friends 10th grade, 11th grade.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in, like, like, I'm a 9th grade. They seniors.
Yeah.
They in college now. Like, I'm a junior. I got homies who they getting their first, like, they getting their first big paycheck from their job.
Yeah.
Because I was just exposed to that. I mean, like, my sister 16, we 16 years apart.
Yeah, yeah.
So I got used to wanting to be around information, because I start processing it as information.
Yeah.
Because it's not that I don't look at my peers, like, when I say peers, like, if you graduated with me or, like that peer group. It's not that you don't know nothing, but you bleed like me.
Yeah.
And the difference is, you went to the left door, I went to the right door, but there was a set of experiences that the time clock was running at the same time. Like, we could have both hit our 10,000 hours in the same proximity of each other, even if we didn't hit the 10,000 hours at the same time. But for me, like, that's what duality is. It's this switch of repurposing all the things that are you.
Yeah.
And for me, I had told myself that, like, I had a big notion about what 30 was gonna be like when I got to 30, at 30. And I was like, well, 31 gonna be like this. And then I'm like, 32 had to be like this. And when I got through, like, going through this again, it made me realize, well, I really can't make it into anything by trying to be any old body. Thor's mother said it in Avengers Endgame. It was one of my favorite quotes. Everybody fails at who they're supposed to be instead of being who they are.
We're talking, boy.
And then it's straight up. Like, everybody fails at who they're supposed to be instead of being who they are. Because when you're being yourself, it forces you at that point to, like, pull tools within your being. And you look at Dan Freeman, bro. He's a judoist. Like, not just, he went to championship. He did national championship.
Yeah.
Like, the brother was a brown belt. Like the only other belt above the man was Calhoun. And Calhoun goddamn went to the Middle East. That's how bad Freeman whooped him. Like, that's information gathering. Yeah. That's duality. Because when you with your homies, the homies not always talking about studying and information and learning. So you gotta have duality, and that's what I loved about it. You gotta have it. Yeah. Like this book it teaches you. The concept of this whole book is duality. Yeah. Like, I'm a spook.
Yeah. Yeah.
Without question.
Yeah.
I'm just not trying to get got.
Yeah.
So I don't make my spookness. I don't take it from a governmental level, but from a local level, I'm definitely a spook who sat by the door. I'll definitely obtain information. I've definitely repurposed it, retooled it, and I'm using it. And like, I ain't being funny. I know folks know Andre Dickens. That's the mayor. Yeah. I know somebody know Mikal Driver too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Straight to it.
Yeah.
Because I don't do the who's who.
Yeah.
I'm the who's doing the work.
Yeah.
And that's duality for me. It's like, I got a certain dog in me to help other people progress their projects. Yeah. That's why I like working with Render.
Shout out Render ATL.
Because it big shout out. But what it can teach you though is that's Justin's passion project.
Shout out Justin Samuels, another Mississippi boy.
Hey, yeah. Big shout out to my guy. And what I love about being a part of his team and like the journey of like how he let me grow into me by working with him. Yeah. Like I'm not in tech. But Reba, Justin, Eric, like Casey, like a lot of them met me through a social lens. Mm. So I know Reba was a big part of cause she's my direct report from the business of it all. But I know at the end of the day, somebody knew socially this man Driver he connect with people. Yeah, yeah. He good with people because people is what I do. Yeah. I'm a sociologist. That's what my bachelor's in. Yeah. And I got a Master of Arts in teaching. Generalist. It's a generalist. 5'9". Meaning I can make concepts generally make sense.
And he from the west side of Atlanta.
So we gonna make sure that there's some hospitality in every aspect of what you deal with when you come dealing with me. And I think about that, and I realize duality is going into a space knowing you a giant where you walk. Yeah. But knowing that I don't have to be that tall here because I'm here to nurture and be amongst other people who might not have grown that tall yet. And in the sense of this work, when you volunteering for a tech conference that's not yours, it's not your job to be that tall all the time. You can for sure. You go meet somebody, you about to network, you go to a different panel, you never know. It might be your time to shine. They might be talking about AI. AI is your thing. Grow up, grow tall, reach your crown, wear it. But every time, you can shrink a little bit. Yeah. But just don't shrink so much that you forget how tall you are. You shrink a little bit. Yeah, yeah. But only duality is going to help you understand how to master that, monitor it, and manage it to where it's healthy. Because duality can also be your detriment. Yeah.
And I think it's...
And you saw it happen to Dan.
Yeah. I hope that, my hope is that the majority of Black people tap into that duality and the power that it has. Again, I said earlier, I kind of became conscious of duality. Like I said earlier, my grandmother made us read the dictionary when we were younger. It was, even around those times where, we were very adamant in terms of reading, I still knew that Mississippi was lowest in literacy levels and, just lowest in terms of Black economics in general. So I went to a predominantly white high school, went to a predominantly white college, but the street that I grew up on, everybody was Black. So I'm growing up in this environment of everybody's Black, nobody can read, but my family everybody's reading. Or, it's again, I'm going to these predominantly white schools and, there's this, this is Mississippi, so there's just a very strong history of racism, but every Black person on the street that I grew up on has sound jobs, sound marriages. The families are intact, and everybody can essentially that entire neighborhood raised itself because I could go down to the house, to the Rouser's house, and, you know, Mr. Rouser was cool as hell. He knew my dad, and, you know, if I did anything wrong, Mr. Rouser would chastise me just as much as my father would. So that village did raise his child. And so all of that to say, the duality, I didn't even say my notes. I'm up here just rambling. But role versus identity. You know, Freeman's role was CIA agent, and it was funny because he begrudgingly got it. Like we said, the wife of the senator, when the senator was looking for the black vote, told him, well, you know, CIA doesn't have any black officers, chastise them publicly in order to get your black vote. So there was this bitterness between, you know, back and forth between these two white corporations that ultimately begrudgingly got Freeman his opportunity. But that is what then taps into the identity, is because if we can metaphor what the role of black people are, well, according to the book, they just want us as props. Because the wife was sitting back saying, look, we don't need him for theory. We can just kind of just prop him up. He's good on the campaign. You remember when he was talking about Summerfield at the very beginning? Mm-hmm. He's good for the campaign. Oh, we don't need no theory. We don't need him to speak. You just let him be there just to show that we have black, we care about the black people. Same thing with CIA. CIA is like, all right, if we have one black officer, then they can't say we're not integrated. So there is a begrudging type of demeanor towards black people from white society, which speaks to the role that us as black people have. Again, so let's tie into the identity of it. Well, when you see that as white people, you think, okay, well, that's a lesser than people, or what's the point of even investing in them? Like you said, Freeman jiu-jitsu, highest scores in school, said that he read and studied 5 hours a day, 7 times a week. So there's a diligence and a persistence and an astuteness, if that's a word, that ties into who this man is, that goes untapped, because the society in which he grew up in was just very negligent, which just speaks to America in general. Because America, I think the stat is racism has cost America like $36 trillion, according to, if you can fact check me on that, but according to, I think it's one of those economists has said back and said since 2000, how much racism has just cost America. But tying this back into the duality of the black man, Freeman was able to, okay, this is where you guys are placing me. How can I use this to my advantage? And that was ultimately what I started to understand from a young age when, you know, I grew up we weren't rich. But at the same time, the notion of use what you have was pushed consistently. And so that's what Freeman did. Okay, y'all niggas want to put me in here, you know, to check the mail for you guys? All right, I'm chilling. I'm going to play low-key. This manager really loves the fact that I'm low-key. He's bringing me around all of these different meetings and briefings. I'm picking up on all of this information.
What you had access to, the library?
I had access to the library. He was in the library all the time. What's up? I see you looking at. I lowballed America.
So it's watch. In a recent study by Citigroup, Closing the Racial Inequality Gaps, economists state that in the last 20 years, racism has cost the U.S. economy $16 trillion.
What did I say? 36 billion?
16 trillion is crazy.
With a T.
But see, again, though, it's you as white society, you want to cast off this race that you brought over here. Why not invest? And that's the reason I love Freeman. Freeman was sitting back and saying, and I'll read a passage because it answers one of my last questions. But Freeman was sitting back saying, these young brothers and these young sisters have ambition, they have goal, they have drive. Frederick Douglass said it is easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. Let's invest into this generation right now. Oh, y'all don't want to do it? Okay, cool. I see the system that we're going up against: military tactics, fighting tactics, weapons tactics, and how to apply it strategically, like you've been saying. That's what I'm going to offer as Dan Freeman. And so that ties back into that duality, that battering ram of like, I know what's right, but at the same thing, I know what's good, but at the same thing, I know what's right. And so with those two things,
goes to your morality concept.
Yeah.
Like, how far is too far?
Yeah.
And to say that it's really like facing facts. We don't have enough people who speak the facts.
Yeah.
And you might have fact checked me, but I heard about a study that said that by 2040, people of color, like overall as a people, our net worth will be 0. That's 15 years.
I would not be shocked by that.
I'm not shocked, but my concern is nobody, like that data being out there. We love throwing numbers and statistics every other day.
Yeah.
That data right there is out there, and we're not, like, no one's leading us, like, with that notion in mind.
That's 15 years from now.
15 years from now. So for me, I'm not gonna lie to you,
Bro.
I've been thinking about that for a minute. That's why I brought it up. And which, like, I was running from this notion of rebuilding my school and doing all that stuff because I was deterred from it because of what I saw.
Yeah.
How the systems work, how other schools work, how people get in the dollar, how, like, some people will donate this money to you and they try to control every aspect. But all those things are things I'm like, God just wanted me to realize, like, I can't avoid those fights.
Have you read Up From Slavery, Booker T. Washington?
Like, we had to in high school. I mean,
So
it's not as an adult. With this state of mind, I have not read. I had to reread it. I had to reread Miseducation of the Negro.
Yeah.
That led to me becoming an educator.
And I'd love for you to like jump in there because I had a conversation with another brother and we were talking about Booker T. Washington. Of course, you know, the conservatism and, you know, even his speech that he gave in the 1895, I can't remember the name of it. He gave a speech in Atlanta, basically told white people that, you know, we'll kowtow. And, you know, of course, W.E.B. wasn't feeling that. But the thing that, the reason I bring up Booker T is the fact that you sit back saying building your school back up. I thought of Booker T as the spook at times, as the person who's like, in order for me to get this school up, to teach these generations how to be sufficient with your hands, how to build things out of nothing, I have to hop on these trains, go up north, be around these white people who think less of us, but convince them, hey, this is why you should give money to my cause down here in Tuskegee, Alabama. It's, again, man, it gave me such a respect because like most, let's call them Hotep black people, in my early 20s, I definitely thought that Booker T was just kind of like, nigga, what are you talking about? Like, you know, I forgot what the exact quote that he had, but as he said, like, as the fingers were separate on the hand, but still like on the hand or together, something on that term. Forgive me, I'll drop it in the notes.
No, we got you. You good.
But I often think about, like in general, conservative white people, Republican black people, I should say. And when we often sit back and say, you know, the duality that we ultimately speak of is that when you're black in America, you're just gonna know it at some point, regardless of how far you try to run from it. Tim Scott, the Republican, he knows he's black in America, regardless of how many white people he's around.
They probably playing in his face.
Probably playing in my boy's face.
Daily.
And so it's one of those things, though, where it's just kind of like, I'm just using Tim Scott because I just brought him up as an example. Is Tim Scott spooking by the door for the sake of the long game? Or is it just, you just a real life coon? And so it really
You asking me.
No, that's a rhetorical question.
I'm about to say, I don't know if Tim Scott knows Spook, but he's gathering information.
Yeah.
But it's only probably for a small faction of people that he believes he should serve.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you care, you care. Right?
But again, that goes back to when you gave the example of the cigar roller in Spook, when he kind of looked up at Dan, it was kind of like, nigga, at times I feel like, and again, Tim Scott, I don't really care about him per se, but like at times I often look at those black faces in white places and I'm like, nigga, are you like, what's your end game?
Right.
And again, but if it's just kind of like, you're Dan, you're just quiet, you're just doing your thing, all right, well, I'm chilling. But you know, I guess Tim has done some shucking and jiving, but the shucking and jiving come with the spooking.
I mean, it does, but there's a level to, I think, your purpose and destiny. It's certain things about it you're just not gonna move a certain way.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I'm not just accepting any old thing. I'm not just taking any dollar. I'm not accepting any donor. Yeah. I'm not allowing anybody to tell me my curriculum has to look any old way. I'm still trying to figure out like how I'm gonna make. Like, I don't want a charter school.
Yeah.
I've seen it done. Like I don't want it. And then with private, I don't really want a private institution either because I don't want to limit hearing the term private and deterring somebody with a certain amount of talent and their parent is already like, we can't afford it. So I'm gonna be an independent institution. Yeah. So I am gonna be an independent school. Still might have like a little tuition of some kind. Even if you can't afford it, the tuition doesn't mean you can't come.
Yeah.
That'll be broken into a payment plan.
Yeah.
Everybody got money. Look, one thing we know for sure in our community too.
Oh, that black consumer dollar.
Dollars being spent.
Yeah.
The dollar being spent. And I'm going to make sure that for the next 4 years and really 30 years of my life, trying to make sure my institution is a viable space. And y'all can hear me now. Prodigious Academy Advanced Learning and Character Development Incorporated is my institution. It's my school.
We're dropping it in the
It's already out. It's been around.
Crazy.
I've been doing more programming
Yeah.
than the institution because I literally was deterred from it. I ran from my destiny.
Yeah.
And God has just been so big on like, yo, never again.
Yeah.
And when you had me like do this project of going back through this book again, like you had me realize like how much I really love the Spook Who Sat by the Door. And I was watching a movie this morning before I came again.
Yeah.
To just kind of like I ain't finished the whole thing this time, but just to just reopen my mind against who the book is depicting him to be.
Yeah.
And who is Dan Freeman displayed to be. And it just makes me think about the value of why you would want to build and want to have or want to push the envelope or want to try. It's because at the end of the day, we would never know new innovations and know new anything unless somebody just makes something different.
Yeah.
So I respect, and shout out to Ron Clark. I went to Ron Clark Academy a few weeks ago. And, you hear about Ron Clark Academy and you look at it, you probably think about, the notions of there's a white man who built a school for black children. They dance a lot, they do music a lot, but it's really much more intricate than that. It's a white man who actually understood the basis of us as a people and decided, well, rhythm and sound and music and repetition, we as a people, like, we lock in with that.
Yeah.
But don't just make it old heebie-jeebie, just a regular old long song, a 15-minute song, and you can't learn nothing from it. But like a 4-minute something that actually teaches you something, I really value that because I think about, I wrote one called Scientific Question, using country shit by Big Crit. And I taught the scientific method. I'll text you the video.
Okay, cool.
Later.
Shout out Big Crit, another Mississippi. We're doing all Mississippi shout outs.
Hey man, look man, it's the reason why I mentioned it, man. I know what's going on, man. I know who the host is, man. But no, so I use. Let me talk about a scientific question.
Yeah.
Like that, it was a vibe, like, and I think what I want everybody to realize when they look at this book or look at a character like Dan Freeman or look at the term duality. Or just think about oppressive systems, or think about trials and tribulations, or thinking about you're not in the place you want to be, or not. You probably won't ever, you never will be, if you don't take some kind of interest towards it, compound it in some way, because oppression makes you tired.
Yeah.
And if you don't realize that now, I heard, like, hear me say it. Oppression makes you tired. Yeah. And because it makes you tired, it makes you, like, susceptible to just accepting anything.
Yeah.
Accepting schools the way they are.
Yeah.
Like, there are a lot of institutions, like schools, that just need to be called out for their mess. Like, I don't, perfectly is not my thing to do. Like, that's just not my thing. Like, I'm more just, let's do the work. Let's build above it.
Yeah.
I'll talk my shit. Like, if we want to have that little one-on-one, but I don't use public platforms of this level. But I will be clear. A lot of schools are playing in people's faces, and more so people of color.
Yeah.
Especially institutions where it's low socioeconomic communities. Those are the spaces in which we have to have the most agency as people. Because if you don't think if you don't think about it enough, you would not realize that you're the group that people of the black bourgeoisie or whatever are having meetings about. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
And that's what used to hit me about how I showed up in different spaces over time. It was just like, wait, that's about me. Wait. But you don't know you're talking about me because you don't see me in that light because I'm in the room.
Yeah.
But y'all talking real crazy. Y'all talking real crazy about something that you haven't poured no resource into.
Yeah, yeah.
You're talking real crazy about when is the last time you allocated funds to an institution that, I mean, like, come on, man. So
let's actually jump into it. When have you had the conversation? And just taking just one beat back as we continue this great conversation. according to the 2017 report by Prosperity Now, 2053 is when we will hit zero, and that's 27 years from now.
So it moved. So I guess because that was
2017, but now that so it may. I hate to say it, but
we got more time, but not really.
Right.
I'll take it.
I'll
take it. That actually made me feel better, because when I think about building my institution now, it's keeping that data. It's keeping that kind of stuff in mind.
Yeah.
Racism has contributed $16 trillion. Well, I'm not gonna not get the money. All I know is they don't want to hear DEI. Cool. Yeah. I got something for that.
Yeah.
It's called 21st Century Scholar Skills. I don't need, we don't got to talk. Information computer technology, literacy, financial literacy, persistence and grit, leadership. So you don't got to worry about that. I'm building a human.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, let's jump into number 5 because it kind of leads into what you're leading to, bro. I asked, how do the young men Freeman recruits reflect the potential and challenges of mobilizing an oppressed community? This question was the hardest for me to answer.
Yeah, so I'm highlighting all the key things I found, like I pointed out. One, there's a challenge in organizing an oppressed community. It's gonna always be difficult because it's like you talking Shakespeare.
Yeah.
You talking in Shakespeare to somebody who just need to hear last time that I checked. You feel me? Like, but it's that. So organizing an oppressed community, understanding untapped potential. Like, I think it's easy to judge it.
Yeah.
But do you understand it to cultivate it?
Yeah.
Because for me, I feel like I was untapped potential. I didn't read my first whole book until I read The Alchemist senior year of college at Morehouse. And when I say whole book, by choice, meaning I turned every page. I was eager to open it. Every other book, it was just like, what's the questions? Cool, because that's what you want from me. You don't want me to understand the book. Because my process of learning and learning books and reading books is maybe a little bit different.
Yeah.
You said I got to have this done in a week. It might take me a month. So we not on the same page. What's the question?
Yeah.
But if it's a book that I want to enjoy, cool. And I think how to manage untapped potential is important because it's going to be fiery. It's going to be sharp. Damn near dangerous. Because a young person is not, when I say dangerous in a bad way, I'm saying they're dangerous because they move the markets.
Yeah.
They're the reason mountains start walking. There are organizations like Prosperity Now, probably did that data in 2017, was probably running them numbers in 2010.
Yeah.
It's the same way somebody running numbers right now on what young people are buying and all these things. The U.S. ain't worried about banning TikTok because of the youth. Because of they're banning it because of the youth and the fact that TikTok is not their product.
Yeah. So
therefore, it's not a viable resource to just keep allowing it to get so much fervor from our youth's attention.
Yeah.
All this means is somebody in the government is probably having a conversation with Meta right now to create or ensure that the Reels process, once the ban kicks in, I know Mark Zuckerberg has met with some government officials.
Of course.
To talk about how he can circumvent everything that TikTok did well. How can he do it well? And here is some extra funds that he don't need to get it done, but we want you to get it done.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. It's how do we help the dangerous understand that the danger that they produce low-key important.
Yeah.
We don't need white people to just be so comfortable anymore.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I don't mean they got to feel alarmed or they got to feel threatened or they don't have to feel safe. I'm talking about comfortable enough to just keep overlooking that they have a life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness that other people do not.
Yeah.
And then have a mitigated gall and audacity to act like we're whining, complaining about our plot in life as if we just really put ourselves there.
Yeah.
Because if you really wanted to find out the strength of the black community, you could have easily given us the same way that the Japanese, the same way that Jewish community, same way that anybody who was oppressed by any system outside of America, and then they found refuge, but also resource in being in America, and was given money by the government. If you'd have did that to us, we would not be like nobody. But you know what though? I mean, not to all viewers, but I serve a God that said, last shall be first, and the first shall be last. I think it's all about awareness, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, in the Bible, there were a lot of tyrants. There were a lot of evildoers, but the people still made it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like if you stressed about it and you affected your health in a way that you might not have survived, but there were people who were surviving through tyrants.
Yeah.
Like there was a man who had a hut, and when soldiers came, God gave him the strength to defend his home.
Yeah. And
then not be punished for it later. It's the same thing. I think it's about what we're searching for now. It's but to keep going, it's the object of like having little access to educational opportunity. Yet these young people possess resilience. He taught them resourcefulness, then they start to use it, and then they actually develop their own desire for change. And that desire for change wasn't just about the overall archer community. Yeah. It was themselves. Yeah. And I think but the overarching ordeal was we want to change the community. Yeah. But I think that's everybody. Like we all decide to change ourselves individually, but realize that we're not only ones here. I saw a post on Instagram that it's like what we think, and all the spotlights were pointing to one individual. But the reality, and it was like 5 figures, and all figures had 2 spotlights on all of them at once, meaning the light was shining for everybody at one time. So understanding that leadership, or Freeman's leadership, helps transform this raw potential into a disciplined, unified force capable of meaningful action. It's the same thing, that if we take our own individual leadership, lead ourselves, I think by doing so, we'll help transform raw potential into a disciplined, unified faction that could serve everybody else outside of itself. Yeah. Because I don't just want to get in a group and we the group. Yeah. Like we the goats, we the great ones. I don't care for that. Yeah. Like and it's hard for me to be a part of that, because technically I built my way to this like function in my life. But any day, God could say, whoop, and now I'm back regular living. And regular ain't even a bad thing. But when I say regular, I'm saying like all that ambition, all that stuff is regular. Yeah. Now you got 2 degrees, but you got a certificate from UPenn in social impact strategy, and you a Emerging 100, and you a member Alpha, and you a Mason, and because none of it won't matter if you broken right here. Yeah. And that's the point. Like, untapped potential is shattered. It's like a shattered engine. Yeah. But you driving on it. Yeah. That shit's still sparking. Like, that shit dangerous. Like, that shit sparking. They got flames, they got all kind of, but you driving on it. Yeah. Driving on a shattered engine. It's pretty hard to do. But the wheels keep rolling. But when you finally stop the car and you take it to the dealership, you look at how much work got to get done, how much it's going to cost you. And now you got to deal with somebody else's system of healing. And healing should be free. But in a world where everything about money, now your healing going to cost. Yeah. But you could have healed yourself. Yeah. Because you could have been working on the car yourself. Because you have the ability to learn, study, focus. Oh, this shit, hey. This shit is not like, this is not no like, this, like you sparked me back like this. I needed this. Like I'm going into the new year like Again, but I already had it. But now it's like, but it's revitalized though. I say again and I already had it, but it's still not the same because, and that's what for the young men. And I'll keep going. However, the initial lack of unity and the personal struggles they face underscore the difficulties of building a cohesive movement.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we at. We don't have a cohesive movement as a people.
Yeah.
Like, it's not enough. Like, it's not enough. Even then when you look at the language of, like, social media, right? When people make posts, me versus me, me, me. That's fine in the sense of talking through a narrative, if you were talking through a narrative that was supporting and building other people's focus on themselves.
Yeah.
But most of it is like, it's just us versus me because we all have this belief that nothing around me is going to really matter as much until I make it. Mm-hmm. And then making it and being made into something is all up to interpretation.
Yeah.
Like, it's all up to interpretation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think, like, what Dan did for these young men was he just gave them the chance to see themselves as clay. And it was up to them to build again.
Our answers are kind of like one and the same, bro. I actually am going to read 2 segments from the book to answer my question, which, to kind of go back with the question, is how did these young men, how do they reflect the potential and challenges of mobilizing an oppressed community? So I'm about to read it for a segment where Freeman's just kind of, again, his own thoughts, and he's thinking about one of the young brothers who he's kind of mentoring. His name is Sugar Hips. He says, Sugar Hips was an underdeveloped natural mathematician, a genius with figures. In any except a ghetto school, his genius would have been recognized and nurtured. In the overcrowded classrooms, where the sheer joy of maintaining discipline precluded any except the most dedicated of teachers teaching, Sugar Hips Scott was a nuisance. He was far too far ahead of the other students, did his problems too quickly, and was bored with the level of mathematics with which he was forced to deal. He had dropped out at the age of 16 in disgust. He went through the geometry, algebra, and calculus tests that Freeman got for him from the University of Chicago Library with a speed that amused Freeman and awed other Cobras. There was not a day when Freeman did not curse the talent and intelligence within the Cobras that had been stifled. I don't even have to really, and again, this is just one paragraph in this complex, and then I'm gonna jump and I'm gonna read ultimately the last page or the last paragraph of the book and kind of tie it in. This is after, Freeman had fought Dawson, which it's funny. All this talk, we hadn't even talked about Dawson. We probably won't be able to get around to it. We've been chopping.
And you got to see Dawson, how Dawson depicted in the movie too.
We're going to jump on him in a second. So this is when, after he's taking care of Dawson, Freeman's kind of sitting back and he's put out the condition red, which is basically, he built this up to where he had 12 units across the country. So he's put out this condition red. They're going to go do what they do. He says, or he's thinking, they're not boys anymore, Freeman thought, staring at the door of the apartment after they had left. They don't need me anymore. You grow up fast in the ghetto, and I help them grow faster than most. I wonder how many of them will be alive or free this time next year. And then it goes off at the end. Freeman smiled, and the pain that didn't matter. Freeman smiled, and the pain didn't matter anymore. In fact, for the first time in many years, he hardly heard it all. And so, bro, I don't have any children just yet, and so I can only imagine when you kind of look at somebody, and you've seen them in their clay stages, and as they've molded to become, saying like these great monuments, to see their entire evolution and then to see it have to go off into this, inevitable battle or war, we can call it. I think that is the challenge there. The potential is kind of like what I said with Sugar Hips. Sugar Hips he would have been a mathematician at MIT had he gone to a white school.
Without question. Full-fledged engineer somewhere.
You know what I mean? But he went to a ghetto school, in which that kind of ties back into when people talk about institutional racism. That's what we're talking about when we talk about these school systems. There are so many untapped brothers and sisters out there who are so naturally gifted when it comes to intellect, But again, I'm sitting in the classroom and the teacher's biggest obstacle is making sure that, they're in chaos. So how can I be taught? I'm getting these very rudimentary lessons. I'm so much more advanced in this, but I am in a system that does not identify that and capitalize on that. So again, ultimately what happens is that the country loses out on $16 trillion because they don't know how to make the lives better of all of their citizens. Fuck America.
They be tripping. Man.
I say that with the tiresome that you were talking about. But at the same time, I acknowledge that a lot can be gained, again, with the resources that we have. And that's where I think that potential and that challenge kind of line in together. Because when that potential goes untapped, that's when you then start to see a lot of these young brothers who are 18 and 19 with mugshots. They had so much. There's nothing worse in a world than a man with no vision. If a man has no vision, he is a frustrated individual, and that frustration spreads out into the community that he's around. And so when you have a generation of young teenage boys growing up with this level of frustration because nobody has been willing to invest into them, which is a tip, I just tip my hat to you, bro, as I continue to even say these words and the things that you do, bro. It's just very noble. I genuinely mean that.
Appreciate it, boss.
Because, again, I was fortunate enough to grow up in an environment where there were a plethora of father figures who sat back and said, you can be something, you will be something. And so it comes second nature. But to that 17, 18-year-old who's on the brink of like stepping into that point of no return, like you said, it takes that community, bro. It takes the people who are just, instead of just sitting back and just having, intellectual conversations about it, are you participating with these nonprofits? Are you actively going back into the community? Are you preparing yourself, even in your own? Are you doing the work in the mirror first and foremost? Getting that situated and then stepping out into your neighborhood and being a light there. And so the potential and the challenge are both kind of one and the same. How can you continue to invest into the next generation? Don't sit back and tell me that you're frustrated because they can't learn. I'm 33 years old, bro, and I still bump my head with, so there's still certain things that I gotta kind of give me some time to come around to.
It's life.
It's life. And I am 33 years old. I'm not 13 or 16 years old, still trying to figure out.
The brain is a complex organism
in
itself. Like, it has so many intricacies to it, like speech.
Yeah.
What we're doing right now, that wasn't even, like, the brain, this is a learned trait.
Yeah.
This is a scientific expansion. This is not what the brain automatically has for us to do. Like, we don't have to speak like this. Like, so when you think about everything you're saying, I guess it's just interesting to me to see how we leave ourselves in limits.
Yeah.
And we'll stay in those spaces, and then when somebody pushes the envelope, or anybody tries to push the envelope, you make them feel less than, or in the sense of, I don't know if I truly believe that desegregating our schools was a benefit to us.
We had a conversation about, with Alex, another TGS member. We were just kind of like, segregation was.
And the reason I say that is because when I look at the history books and I look at history of our people, every time we didn't have what the white man had or anybody else, it pushed us to form some sense of innovation.
Yeah.
And in that innovation, sustainable features start to happen.
Yeah.
And then, I keep saying end of the day, but it's just real talk, end of the day. I think you look at HBCUs, right? Like, their existence. Like, everybody didn't have to go to one for your bachelor's, but the spacing for it to get your master's, your doctorate, or a space for you to just go back to pour into people, to give them a better sense of information than what you manage.
Yeah.
And if you are a person of color who went to an all-white institution, then take your ass to a HBCU and prepare them folks for, you know what? You're in a safe haven of being amongst your like us. Yeah. So I want you to value what it means to collaborate and build and create with your people. Yeah. But I want to also have this town hall with you all to keep you aware of don't lose sight of that when you get into this company.
Yeah.
And when it's the 5 black people, don't be trying to be the one black person that's the partner of the company. Yeah. No, the 5 of y'all need to ride. We ride at dawn every day until winter stop coming.
Yeah.
Say that. You know, and just real quick, like that's one thing that I even preach that for everybody. Like even if it's not like college is your thing, that's not your route. You want to go somewhere different. I always preach to any and everybody, just do 1 year at a HBCU, because coming from Albany and going to Morehouse, like it's a melted, like one, it shows you, I think we had talked about this too, that black people aren't just a monolith. You see what I'm saying? And it broadens your experience. Like you said, west side of Atlanta, right? Small Albany, bro, like
Small Albany,
you know, like you just know.
I got homies from Albany, yeah.
You know what I mean? You know this. But then going into the AUC and how big of a melting pot it was, bro, it just took my mind, and I'm like, oh, this is dope.
I had two homies went to Albany State, but they out here making moves.
You see what I'm saying?
And they mayor's campaign team.
See what I'm saying?
Socially, Rayshawn and Martin. You know Rayshawn and Martin.
Yeah.
But I ain't even cut you off.
No. It's because that's, as for us, I think that's what we like. It's fine. Even now, I can even take it a step further to even just double down on what you said. And even if you didn't, if you have the means to, go back, go to, and experience it.
Well,
because I'm telling you, bro, it's either way.
What's the rules that say we couldn't? Like, there are really no rules around community. Like these institutions that they only want you to be able to say that if you step on our campus or come in our building, you ain't no threat.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, prove that, and then take like we make community. I really think we make community hard, man. Like we make it hard to galvanize, and then when we do galvanize, like it's always just some social stuff. Like I like intellectual conversation. Like this most intellectual conversation I probably had in a while. Like because everything else is just short. Everybody just short, short tempered. Everybody like nobody really just trying to talk no more. Everybody trying to get money, and then get money to do what?
Exactly right. Get money.
Some of the richest people, like if you rich right now, you blowing me because you ain't doing nothing with it. Because I'm sorry. Like how else do you get more? Like to become more in your richness, you would have to do something with your time in a way to draw people to you to say, I'm gonna still keep investing money in your. But if I know that your product, you could be doing planners, digital, like you can make planners, right? But on your planner, it got one little digital interface or something like that. That's your big project. You a big techie, whatever. But when I find out that the money you raising or making through your products is being redistributed to preserve bees, shit, I respect you.
Yeah.
Because the average mind don't understand that when I see a bee, nigga.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Salute, my boy.
Yeah.
For all the things you do.
Everything.
Just start drilling them holes in my damn patio.
Come on.
You feel me? You gotta appreciate the value of even a tree. Like you want to be in a city so bad, but then you don't realize that if something of a toxin hits city air and there are not enough trees, there is no scientific process that will be able to help change the properties of that by way of normal nature.
Right.
Like there won't be any transition of oxygen flowing to like make oxygen the dominant thing in our stratosphere and our atmosphere. Whatever that chemical was gonna become dominant. And it's like you think about those things, but it's like it's just shit we take it for granted. Yeah. Like community, you take this shit for granted. You take the ability to galvanize for granted. We take that shit for granted. We take that shit for granted, and because we take it for granted, it's easy to have an attitude like a Dan too sometimes, where you just like, man, fuck y'all, fuck you and what you stand for, and like I don't got time for your shit. Yeah. What that man said, you don't want to tussle with me, baby. Yeah. He said, you don't want to tussle with me, baby. I will kick your ass. Like, and that's the movie version and the book. Yeah. He don't play no shit. Cause like, I have a low tolerance for that now because I'm realizing like, the people who get into it, they're not talking about getting everybody else over the hump. Because getting somebody else over the hump is not giving them your money. Yeah. If you don't want to give somebody individually your money, then invest in a center. Yeah. Yeah. Create a resource center.
Yeah.
Create a resource center where you can rent out laptops. And you partner with but don't.
Man.
But we all want to talk. We want to talk innovation and we want to talk all these things, but then we're not being innovative in thought.
Yeah, yeah.
Name a resource center where you can go rent laptops and technology.
I don't know one.
Shit, we might need to go build.
What's up?
Say lab.
I say leading man fellowship, yeah.
I mean, that's a literacy lab. We're gonna let them have their thing.
Right. Hello.
Some things you gotta keep for yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm just saying, but in hindsight, for real, we know people need technological resources.
Yeah.
Why not create a space that, and then in that same vein, you're creating jobs.
Right.
Because then you can create a space where now ICT, information computer technology literacy, information computer technology practices can be embedded in the resource center. Because young people can come get those ICT skills by working on old technology.
Yeah.
Breaking it apart, understand how it works, so that way they can foundationally be clear on why a MacBook Air has an M3 processor chip. Why do we get from desktop computers the way they were to an M3 processor chip? Why is an M3 so faster than my M1 and my MacBook Air right now? What makes those? Now you done turn something for a resource for the community.
Yeah.
Is now a resource for the learning for the community that comes behind.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about Dan Freeman.
Yeah.
Dan Freeman taught me, do not lose sight on the people behind you.
And even as you were talking about, do we have any of those centers? The thing that as you were saying, the realization I had with Dan Freeman was, all right, he's about to go near the end of the book. I put out the condition read. You still got 12 entities that have the same ideology that you've cultivated here in Chicago. Now they're out and about.
And he never disappeared.
And that's ultimately what it goes down to, is that it's about the work that you do, but at the same time, it's about those young brothers that you touch in your classroom, because when they grow older, now they're sitting in your seat. And now we got a couple of centers around Atlanta, and now they're working, well, how can we expand this, make this a national thing? How can we take this globally? And so it again, man, I'm very plant the seed type of mentality. Let's hit it with the water, make sure the sunlight goes, and kind of just keep it pushing from there. But again, man, we're going to jump into this last question, bro. We can be preaching all day. This is,
for sure,
without a doubt, the longest podcast recording that we've had, season finale.
2 hours.
2 hours.
Hey, man,
bro, we average an hour, bro.
Some depth in here, man.
It's deep. It's definitely
249 pages in here?
I mean, man, at a certain point, it's
248. It's depth in here. Like I said, it's a manuscript, man. It's really a manuscript. It's really like I said, I appreciate when you asked me to pick a book. God made me pick this.
Yeah.
I was going through my mind like, what book? Something real easy to talk about. I was gonna pick The Alchemist. I feel like that was easy. But I thought about the time we in.
Yeah.
Organizing and having strategy. And we also can't live in fear.
Yeah.
I know a lot of us, like, it's probably a black man out there right now. And if you are out there, come lead us, bro. Come do what you gotta do. Like, lead. You got people like me who, I'm one of God's gangsters. I know how to disappear. I know how not to be seen. I know how not to, like, don't worry about are you gonna be safe?
Yeah.
It's people like me who are already thinking about that, because I know the fact that you speaking out in this way, I know what world we in.
Yeah.
You know what world we in. Somebody is covering you. And I think that's the thing about, like, even with me, I have to like realize somebody gonna cover me.
Yeah.
Outside of God. And God gonna send somebody to cover me, protect me. I can't, like, none of us can really afford to not push the envelope anymore.
Yeah.
Like, Linda McMahon is the Secretary of Education. She has quadrupled my stock as an education professional. And I'm gonna walk with my head held very high. Yeah. Knowing that for 2 times in my life, one at a young age, when Bessie DeVoe was Secretary of Education, I was more qualified than her. And I had been teaching for like 2-3 years at that point. I got 10 years of education experience at this current like juncture of my life. Yeah. Going into my like 10 year of being in the classroom in 2015. Yeah. In 2014, when I started my sociological perspectives course, and I did the Miseducation of Negro project, and I turned my sociological like internship to working in an elementary school in Magnus Jones, right across the street from Morehouse, where actually I got 2 fellows in my program working there too. that's where, like, for me, I always count 2014. So that's why I say I got 10 years of experience.
Yeah.
10 years in the classroom gonna be next year. But I look at that and I realize, like, we all gotta keep pushing the envelope in all our ways of being.
Yeah.
And open the floodgates for somebody to see that your time, like, we need you.
Yeah.
Because these next 4 years, like, to my point again, Linda McMahon, I'm way more qualified than her.
Yeah.
Whoop her ass on a regular day. She ain't got nothing on me. And I would be a fool to not take that duality. I'd be a fool not to walk in any place I go through going forward for the next 4 years. And not act like whatever somebody who actually does it, like that. When you be like, fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
This time I ain't gotta fake it.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
It's a damn fact. And I think that's what, when you think about this, like, last question, like, who this book recommended for? This is for anybody who's trying to face facts.
Yeah.
It's for anybody trying to face the facts.
Yeah.
Because this is fiction, yes. But the facts of this are you disciplined?
And the facts was like, how can you, I mean, even to the individual out there who is quote unquote nonviolent, you know, how do you look at Dan Freeman ultimately? You know what I mean?
How
like,
do you look at Dan Freeman?
How do you, because as I was seeing Dan Freeman, I was of course in picturing the Black Panthers, you know, with all of the programs they had with their party. And, you know, again, it's, you know, when you study Black Panthers, you kind of, you know, by way, you also study it's a byproduct, COINTELPRO, CIA, everything they had going on. And so, again, man, it's when you sit back and you see a person like Dan Freeman who is, you know, if I just told you in general that, you know, a former CIA agent was teaching teenagers military tactics, you know, of course, there's negative connotation that comes with that. But, yeah, same as you said, man, anybody who, I'd recommend this book because I couldn't really find an answer. I'd recommend this book to anybody who's really looking for answers, man. I mean, you can't read this book and not feel affected, however the effect may feel. And so, and again, we only talked about Dan Freeman. There was so many other characters in there in which you could break down.
Even Joy.
Man, Joy's my favorite character. Well, she was my second favorite character to Dan, just because I just like how she moved, man. Like, her and Dan just had such a real nigga relationship. Like, it was so funny, man. It was just, there was never, even when he was sitting back saying how he had to kind of like hide certain like parts of himself to her, but even then you realize he was so about his business that there was times like, should I kill this woman? Because like at the end when she asked a couple of too many familiar questions.
But then when she, like, even with the, like, how you even try to pour into her, you look like a woman from the Dahomey.
Yeah.
She like, Dahomey?
Yeah.
What the hell is a Dahomey?
She sat back and said he was the only first person who made her feel seen. And mind you, she had gotten married. I think she was either married before or after that point, but nevertheless, she was in the book labeled as a whore at the beginning. But, you know, she's seen so many different men, but there was only one person who she really locked into, and that was a nigga who was playing two different, you know, who was living two different lives. And not even living two different lives, but just was so complex as a human, but at the same time, so genuine where his feet were. And I think that's the difference. It's like mastering that duality while still being present and still, for all intents and purposes, being authentic. However, whatever that mask that you have on it. Mm-hmm. Because even when he was sitting back listening to, you know, the general talk down on his people, he's sitting back, I can't punch this nigga out over the table. I have to be where my feet are. I have to be present with this mask on. And so the ability for him to do both of those things so effortlessly. Man, I love Dan Freeman, bro. I'm gonna go back. I'm watching the movie. I can't watch it tonight. I'm
gonna send you the it's like a clear DVD zip link because you may not be able to buy it. I don't know if they sell it no more.
I'm gonna hop on Amazon. Well, yeah, let me know.
It was banned. I didn't know it was banned, but it's full clear on YouTube. Like, I watch it. I gotta say, I'm just sending you the.
Cool.
That's the better. I mean, it's an hour 45. Like, it's a full movie. Like I said, real clear.
Shoot your shit to the people, bro. Anything else you want to say, man, before we get on out of here, bro?
Man, no, I mean, I think I just appreciate you for having me here, having this opportunity to have this conversation. I hope that I was able to help expand, like, just people's thoughts around, like, how you think about literature.
Yeah.
Right? Like the way I dived into this book, I have like full notes, paragraphs. Like, I'm underlining. I got the key lesson that I learned from it. You know, like, I think everybody should just realize the value of what information is, and it's at our disposal. that's what the Spook Who Sat by the Door, or what Sam Greenlee I feel like delivered to us in this book is the skills, the traits, the things we're looking for. They don't come from a set destination.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Dan Freeman was a Cobra.
Yeah.
What being a Cobra means he was in a gang, means he was on the street in some shape, form, or fashion. So that means his derivative is not he was in Jack and Jill. He had a, first, like his degree and all that. Like, no. Everybody's like, your role, your work, your way probably is going to be unconventional.
Yeah.
I know mine is. I never think, like I didn't value school until I got to junior year of Morehouse. Because I was dealing with the fact that my best friend was a valedictorian in every school or was the lead, so it was already, everybody had they set kind of like, I was top 25 in overall holistic.
Yeah.
I knew it. I could tell. Like, I know, I was assessing my peers. I was like top 25, top 10 for sure.
Yeah.
Top 5, nah, because that was based off the academia, doing the work, coming to class every day, all that. I ain't show up. Like, I showed up. I'm talking about, but I ain't show up. Because some of that stuff just, bruh, you're not reaching me.
Yeah.
And you don't know you're not reaching me because you're not asking no questions. You keep telling me what I got to do. Turn to page 4. All right. Shit, turn to page 4. Shit, that's it, man. We in there. This all you wanted? All right, I'm finished.
Yeah.
You finished really fast. Later. You did what you told me to do. Page 4. The answer's in here somewhere. The answer in the paragraph somewhere. That's another thing I learned about education at a young age. The answers be in the work that I'm already doing. I just got to sit here and read the next question or read the next paragraph or something. So y'all really not challenging me. So send me out. Take my head to detention. Yeah. In school suspension me. Yeah. So I can go read my own shit or draw on something or learn something my way. Let me get on Google for me because I like information. Yeah. Like I'm a big movie buff, so I was always finding out when the next movie's coming out. But to do that, you gotta read. Cause you gotta like read all that. Then like you gotta read the full article. Then you gotta read the article to figure out if the article fake or not real. Cause you gotta know that's how I learned about research and sourcing, through trying to figure out if the information I'm getting about this movie is real or not. Yeah. And then when I watch the movie, I'm like, oh, I remember that article But all in all, everybody, I just want y'all to understand that this is you have a safe space to grow and learn, but understand that these next 4 years, we have to organize, we have to rethink, we have to reshape, we have to be strategic. We just need to be strategic thinkers. We need to understand that our community's value is not monetary. Our community's value is ancestral. It transcends time, and let's not limit our livelihoods to have to be carried by the children that we're having and holding and loving, because all we doing is leaving them the weight of this. Yeah. If we don't fix it at some point. Yeah. So that's it. Yeah. That going crazy. Young Coy, you got anything for the? You snapping us up, huh?
Yeah, I was trying to get a couple of behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, go ahead. I'd been send me them too.
I've been too locked in. I've been shirking my responsibilities. I've been shirking my responsibilities, man. But I just double down on what you were saying, because I'm always preach this any and every time we have a conversation like this, is that organizing is one of the utmost importance that we need to be looking into, because once we organize and we have our demands set as a conglomerate, now we can fire on all cylinders. That's how I feel. That's what I know. So,
good people. This has been another episode of the Cover2Cover Podcast. It's been the finale episode of the Cover2Cover Podcast. Yeah, Mike, I appreciate you, bro. I'm bringing everybody in the first season. I want to bring them back for the second one. So go ahead and get that second.
I got you. I'm gonna figure out the next one.
Continue to do the work, man. The light that you're doing, bro, for real.
I actually got the book already, because we already mentioned it.
Have we?
No, I'm talking about, like, I just thought of Psychology of Batman.
Oh, okay. It's
a book called The Psychology of Batman.
Yeah, no, I remember you told me.
Yeah, I want to tap into that.
Well, they about to get into it. People from the Cover2Cover Podcast, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Season 1. This is the conclusion. This is the finale, episode 14. So, I'm gonna see you guys. We're actually recording this at the December 31st, 2024. I'm gonna go get drunk tonight.
Yeah, man. See y'all in the new year.
Cover2Cover, man. Stay in the book and stay out the way. We'll see you guys later.
Let's do it.